All right, those of you out there in electronic land, you can hear us? Yes? All right, Esther's helping Lana get them figured out. We'll keep going. Anyway, before I was here, I was a teacher, and I worked at the district as a Title I coordinator. I was a literacy specialist and coach. Odds and ends that you all know that you do in districts and charters. And then I came here and started with Reading First, which was a previous project within the Title I program. It went away as a separate program. So then I jumped across the hall to charters, and I worked in the charter section for 3 years. And so there's a spot. I think your heart's in the middle now, isn't it? I don't know where it's not now, but all right. You have a really big spot in my heart for making sure charters are involved and get what they needed as well. So those of you that are from charters, I know your world and I love your world. And then I came back across the hall to work with, it was curriculum at the time, teaching and learning, to work with educator evaluation, standards, all of those types of things. And in that capacity, I volunteered for and requested and had the wonderful opportunity to work with the rural districts at the time. They were the one, districts are required for search and parameters with their evaluation systems, and so I was out working with them, and wow, what a different life. I learned a lot, and the fun thing about that is with their small communities, we have found that we're able to, when we do some networking and talking, that we can put some of our charters with our rural areas because you have similar issues, similar struggles, similar strengths. And so I have found that this all blends very, very greatly. That's not a way to say it, but I said it that way. And so going forward, letting go of all the evaluation stuff and those types of things, that will be on it. So I now have mentoring, yay. And I have Title II-A. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a federal program that is meant to improve teacher and leader quality. There's a lot more to it. But we're just really excited about federal regulations. And come see me, I'll tell you all about it. And then we're moving into a lot of teacher recognition things and coming up. So I basically get teacher, I don't know, recruitment and retention, basically. I get to do that kind of work, which is pretty exciting. We have, let's see, famous people in the room with us. A rock star as of late in Utah, our 2019 is Kelly May. You didn't know I was saying that. I've been thinking about it all day. I get to see Kelly again. So yeah, she'll have a lot of really good insights. I'm sure she'll love for you to pick her brain. So, as all of you do as well. Instead of doing group introductions with everybody and their dog, having to go through and stand up and say this, that, and the other, we're just going to take a minute to get to know each other at your tables. If you are at a table of 1 or 2, I'm going to encourage you to migrate so that we have bigger groups. In your table, I would like you to tell each other about your 3 favorite things to do. It doesn't have to be work related. In fact, sometimes our 3 things have nothing to do with it. Anyway, talk to your neighbors about your 3 most favorite things.
Well, we are all from Jordan. So you guys only have 1 or 2 out of here, but that was just always have the information. My 3 favorite things are high procedure and any to do with retail period.
You'll have to know that the speakers up front of you are picking up They're picking up your
That's a long drive
discussions.
up here.
So all these little green things are microphones. So you'll want to talk kind of quietly.
Okay.
So I don't know how you guys lecture. Of course, your yoga. Sure. I used to do is I love to play with my grandkids, and I don't do a ton, but I never did whenever you don't. And I love being with my sisters. And I'm secretary. She's elementary.
I love friends. So a lot of
Probably every weekend something was like Friday, Saturday. If you do some studying, they're kind of like, or one. And then I love, let's see what else. I do love outdoor too.
I'm not that.
They're great. I love every once in a while they have a question or they want to know. And my other brothers and sisters, I gotta protect them from my other brothers and sisters. It's like, that's what I do. They love it. I thought it was, and then so it's been, thank you for listening to my life story. I find myself right in the middle. My mom, I have 28 grandchildren. Which is
Just social studies?
And I almost think I want some of them. Because I'm not really listening to. I honestly, I'm a little
All right, it looks like everybody is done. Any favorites that somebody had or your own that was really unique? Sleeping. Oh, would that be the tryptophan from the turkey that we had this last week?
That's right, we're all picked up this week.
Yes.
As I've gotten older, I can't.
That's not unique.
Anything else?
And I don't take.
Oh, did you ask the question? I was still talking.
Sienna's very honest. Fantastic. I was telling this table that I want to be here when I grow up. The question was there anything super unique or different or anything at your table that people like to do? And the one we had was sleeping.
These people are excellent listeners.
We were highly interested.
I accidentally told my life story. I don't know how it happened.
But I promise now to.
All right, we have put together, we're trying to get caught up on the right contacts for coordinators and each of your LEAs. And so if you are not on here and you are now the contact, will you please either cross out who was there and change, or add your own, or however you can to introduce, to put that on there. If you are here as a temporary, just to fill in for someone, I'll leave that up to you as to whether or not your LEA will want you on the contact list to also get materials and notifications.
Alta and we are taking the place of one person. So she's elementary and I'm secondary. So we are on both lists, but we're both want to be on the contact list.
Okay.
So we put both of us. We put my name on one clipboard and her name on another clipboard.
Just so you know, that's not an error.
All right. Okay, cool. Good to know. We'll have a couple people. Tell me which district again?
Alpine.
All right, so we've got a couple, do we have two of these going around, Miss Lana? Okay. I always remember it's Lana and not Lana by saying Atlanta. And when I remember how to say Atlanta, then I knew what Lana. Somebody else on our team always called her Lana. All right, so I'm just going to let those be, pass them around and do it. So let's find out who's in the room. Specifically, not only, but specifically work with teacher mentoring. Raise your hand. Oh, you have other stuff too. All right. Principals, counselors. You can have multiple personalities. Okay. Let's see. HR, higher ed. And yeah, you're the Michelle replacement, right? So you're the higher ed liaison. Yes, we considered her higher ed. Yes. All right. Other district leadership. Okay. Charter leadership that wasn't specific. Who did I miss? No, there were a couple of you that did not ever raise your hand.
Should have gone for the first one.
I get everybody? All right. My kids say, speak now or forever hold your peas and carrots. They want them held forever. All right. So today you have a purple agenda in front of you. And I saw somebody's first. So those of you that haven't been with me before, I don't put times on agendas because I never know what's going to take how much time, and we may not get to things, or we may spend a whole lot of time on one thing, just a tiny bit on another. It'll just depend on what your needs are as we go through the day. Breaks are the same way. If I see some of you glazing over and it looks like you need to stand up and move your butt blood, then we can do that. Lunch we'll probably do around 11:30, 11:45, so you can beat the lunch rush. And we'll do 45 minutes most likely. Come back and get going again. So there are some articles in front of you. I'll talk to you about those in just a minute. The other thing we're going to talk about is the new mentoring and induction and mentoring rule. And through doing that, I'll have you look at it, but I'm also going to show you the board discussion on that because it's going to give you an idea of what their thoughts are and where they're coming from. Which I think would be good. There are a few people that have volunteered, thank you, to share some ideas of what they're doing in their district. Or charter, I think I had a charter too. Really was specifically impact plan, what you were doing for that. If anybody else is doing anything, we'll leave it open for anybody else to share that in the there. And then we're going to talk about what's coming up in our next meeting. And at the end, we will address the tactical sprint. There are some of you I know we chatted, and I didn't write down any names, so I'm not quite sure who's still interested in doing that. If you have no clue what it is, you can hang out after and we'll talk about it, but we're planning on holding it sometime in February, and it'll require 5 days. It'll require a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a Friday, Saturday the next week. So it's super intensive, but it's super fun. I'm hoping to do some sequestration and make you stay in the hotel and not go anywhere. And there'll be all kinds of things going on. That is what we're going through today. Sometimes things pop up, as many of you know, and we go off the rails a little bit. This is about you, not about me, so I try and set up a structure, but this is your time. So, we talked about before that this is the year of you. The past 7 years that I've been working on this, it's been about what do our new teachers need? And I think we have a pretty good handle on that. If you are new to being a mentor coordinator, you will learn quickly what your new teachers need. And some of that will be done through talking about what you need as mentors. And so these articles that you have in front of you are from Edutopia. Let me just tell you about them before you grab them. And they are designed for new teachers. Them to look at what their possibilities are, look at things to kind of some strategies for them. And I want you to twist it. There isn't a whole lot out there about what we do for mentors. Not this year. Anyway, these are about new teachers, and what I'm going to have you do is read it and think about it as, okay, my new teacher has read this article. They want to implement this. What do I need in order to do that for them? What do I need to know? What resources do I need to have in order to do it? So what is it that you as a mentor have to have in your toolbox, available to you, somebody in contact, whatever? What do you need to know, be able to do all those kinds of fun things to support your new teachers if they want to implement or do what is in this article? After you do that, you're going to just read those individually. After you do that, we'll have people join together with the same article. You can see there are 4 different colors, so there are 4 different articles. We'll have you get together with the same kind of article, and we'll have, we've got chart paper around the room, so you'll write what your topic was, and on down the list. So what were the 3 big ideas out of there? And there might be 7 big ideas or 6 big ideas as some of those articles list. But what are 3 big ideas that you can focus on? After that, what support do you need in order to help your teacher? What resources do you need? What do you already have? And then, if you had a magic wand to wave to get whatever you needed, what would you get? But this magic wand has a rev limiter on it. We have to be a little careful and not do the super go to Hawaii and, celebrate being you. So seriously, think about it. If you could have anything, unlimited funds, those type of things, no, but funding is legit. But if you want to say funding and you want to go that route, you have to say for what? Because sometimes we have money that becomes available, and if you find friends that you want to do, then we can do. And article by yourself, and then we'll have the tables get together, and I'll tell you where that is. Charts. What questions do you have? Okay, green. When you're done, you're coming up here. You have a green article. Blue, right there. Gold, back there. Salmon, up here, or peach, or whatever you want to call it. Making sure it takes that long.
Set up with an administrative password and everything.
Yes.
All right, 5 being 0, 4 being 4 minutes. How many minutes do you need? 0 to 4. All right, we have the GT talented folks in here. You guys are super readers. All right, so we said blue, green. Is it blue? Yes. Gold. Down. And while you don't have to take all your stuff, this is just for a minute. While you are transitioning, we will post these articles so you'll have access to all of them. Look at later.
It's like nice. How are you?
Good. How are you? That would make us the golden girls.
Yes.
Hey.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Is that a Thanksgiving question?
And the song. And I'm only wearing it right now, so I'm
Oh, my kids are off. There you have it.
Oh, are we already supposed to?
Elementary.
I'm a secondary person. And I'm
I can bring it to you and you would like to have to do that.
I like the difference. I'll be this great unless someone else wants to.
You could just put it as a bullet point in there or just kind of.
And like she's talking about planning, because you never said like. Or like your. Talked about planning. Exactly.
I think it's.
Yeah.
I would want to, how do you, you know,
Or as a mentor to approach it, I thought that I should help.
And I did it in theory. There's probably it's the hardest and efficient with your time.
Still, nobody else.
Yeah.
Started time efficiency, strategy,
One time.
Prioritizing it.
But you prioritize what you're going to put into the class.
And I'm going to they cannot do that by themselves because they don't know what to do.
Well, and on that,
Somebody yeah,
and I mean, those kind of go together.
But I like it so you don't learn how to do it. And their shots would be saying, they think it's what do you mean? And your teachers have a hard time.
I was worried when they did about that. Ran out of time, they would just outreach those way. But I think it's
For example,
Yeah, it was
what do you, you're opening up something. And then so I read you're enthusiastic.
And an interesting way of phrasing it.
Yeah, I like that phrase again. I tell the class, guys, I'm going to review it, but I'm not going to give you a lot of feedback. I'm focusing on third period or whatever. You have to.
I know about the ISA. Case management and balance, but I don't.
well, I would acknowledge the price of it.
Yeah.
I think that there are really efficient practice as a
Well enough, and they don't great.
I like the PC about
Doing so much.
great other students, but I think when you guide them and teach them exactly.
Yes.
And if you do feedback, or feedback, but think about it afterwards. Oh, I shared that. Do something with the feedback. Otherwise, they just talk.
Is that number one?
And
Yes, that's 3 big
yeah,
ideas.
and so there should be something to put together.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules. So based on but something, so they're actually doing some feedback.
No, you're right. I just don't think that people in general is.
Great.
Well enough.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Have a rubric based on
Management is
it.
the other
Well,
big
and
idea.
this is not, that course isn't.
Right.
So years of teaching English, especially solid rubric.
I know that's. Especially you, the first time you realize I have not figured out.
I would always, I would circle,
And then.
You write those down, and that's my letter to you. I said, that is so great.
It's circles.
Public management.
More consistent.
I think consistent.
I love that. I mean,
No, I agree. Because the, and
No, that's a big difference for us when we do teacher trainings and things like that.
And that's part of your management, to go back to that student.
And say,
You know, that no opt-out thing, right?
now what are you gonna do?
I said that.
balance. I didn't like the balance.
Right, yeah.
I would say definitely.
Balance.
Balance.
Okay, so what support do you?
Yeah, balance line.
talk about organizing
taking this
outside stuff, having hobbies and friends, and so you don't just go crazy with all the time, taking off home.
But when
Taking it to
And so really the assessments are then teachers have more
Time.
I can
Just for understanding.
If the mentor doesn't have an
I used to put stamp on them.
because there are
As I walk around the room, I learned really
knowledge
to take all those pictures.
Same with technology.
Yeah, because it's
so
frustrating.
it's
You
more.
doesn't know how really.
To share.
So.
Peer evaluation.
What you're seeing, how people are responding to questions and whatever.
And online.
Next question.
I know, I feel like I'm just going all over the table.
No, there says plus support.
Yeah.
But not only that, I mean, how to use them, because I've seen the how to use it, but it's not used effectively. Little competition with kids yelling at you. There's ways to use it.
Right, yeah, right. Your observation.
Learning.
Yeah. But I think that has to be. Like,
What is the most important?
So we need to within time. Yeah. The other thing is, I think,
Your admin teams are still a resource for you.
go and observe something and have the opportunity to back immediately design.
Most of the stuff is already
A lot of others, practice, and then go, okay, so you're back on, and then go back into your
I'm
always on this implementation, right? There's a lot of good. This is somebody called their others. And what are you doing? Good. And you need subs for
I also want to do, and there's also no easy way to tell them that you're not going to know this until they've failed for a while.
right. A lot of new teachers are so
Teams too. But see, that this type of stuff, to me.
I'm going to do it.
Provisional for teachers. As I said, it's also.
Most of the resources are available. Except time.
Right. An intern that tried to do that.
But I think those have to be set together.
Well, your
District support,
coaches, mentors.
Um,
They only use it.
I know.
Curriculum checklist. Do you have any to know what the resources are, like any grants?
Yeah, so we have,
And it comes back to time. And this one our collaboration with school time. When I first heard, I thought, you should be helping the students because she addressed that as well. So grade a paper, walk around, yeah. And I love sitting with the kids.
Yeah, I do secondary, and special programs, and then she does elementary.
It's been a long time since I've
Yeah. So,
Not as, that comes under number 5. Magic wand is funding for professional development. You know, because honestly, I think, especially right now,
Well, like this guy grows,
what situations, whether
How students do, like, so it can change situations.
Yeah, I'll teach you. I should experience teachers.
No, it's so
I work with some
summers or evenings. I think that would be very beneficial. As I try to, my teachers are out there, they said, you know, we have a class on
she does her.
and I think
Then we do training for
same thing. Oh, yes, that's
it.
I think
Saturday,
yeah, so,
sounds terrible.
and so I think, well, yeah, have them come to know you, just provide options first, and then see the attendance evaluate, like the comedy. Yeah. So that they, you know, that they,
And it's not to
It can be their own time, yeah.
It's better in person.
I feel like this is like, yeah.
Because online, they may read it and say, oh, I didn't do that. If you're doing it in person, it's gonna say why.
Right. I mean, they, part of actions, I'll do the value in 45 seconds. I'll rate 15 seconds. Right.
Master Connect
Okay, so tech work.
Is that what you're funding by yourself as a, this is what
We need the opportunity to share.
As the mentors. So you need more than
do you want to pass? Stop the clock for a couple hours.
because they learn how to use these programs.
Right.
so much data to look at as you're sending them out. Here's a template for the lesson plan.
And also,
Free to observe other principals.
Things that are in order or something like that. Get together with their chat.
You know what? Recently, I went to TED Talks, you know,
So they're afraid of everything.
Because the internet on small districts, like I don't have ed tech.
Like, is this?
I don't have the funds
So.
and yeah.
so climate.
Yeah.
Some they're not well planned.
We have to
I don't have the time.
Yeah, that's what we just kind of set a benchmark for our very first year teachers. This time of year.
Oh, I love when stuff works.
It was a lot. It seems
But too often our teachers just resort to, especially
instead of trying to cover everything. And then
So but I was teaching so many other ways to assess.
I've always done it.
You picked out of your staff the best 10 person you was, and then you ran down there and says, please.
Yeah, please help.
There's a training.
One of the things.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. I'm gonna fix it and Eric's gonna help you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I never got as far as I was. I just had to figure out how to use it. How do I do this? What am I doing?
I mean, it
Grant money.
Yeah,
grant money.
Yeah, grant money, yeah, very good. Those Tiffany rolls, maybe we don't make grant money sitting out there. And also. But then the planning can do on your, so I'm.
education program's very,
Is one mathematics unit. Science or all.
They had a
You know, if we're sitting here with more people ready to like get somebody gets up, you don't really understand the way to feel like a lot of when it's great that you're sitting out here before we everybody's yeah,
That's our job.
we send we are starting out
Yeah, exactly. So I think that
mentors. We, in our elementaries, we don't. The coach takes that role. And then in a few of our high schools, we do just because of the teams that one coach.
I'm thinking outside the box.
So we do still have
Something maybe we can do, we can have, you know, in college you have definitely maybe we have like a week, a month where there's nothing, so to give teachers time
an extra
to work and
stipend, or
plan,
they
to
have an extra criteria depending on what the
no
principal
expectations, no,
So it
there's
varies.
no after school PD where it's
But
like
like
it's
now,
not
yeah, it's a lot. So if the principal is willing to.
And they can even
pick and choose. Yeah.
they have a menu of items pick and choose that they wanted to work on.
maybe a way to provide them
In
time.
the elementary and high school, coaches we are teaching
Coaches do that. Primarily, we switch to coaches are just kids.
Okay, what's the last one?
You got magic wand.
Frontline.
So you guys use Canvas a lot?
Yeah.
As a mentor, I would want Untitled one.
If students across the board
Not using it.
That goes through the or it's the assessment.
Well, I'm trying to get there.
And when I work my teachers, I've got 3 teachers that
Guidance for people.
with them for saving them. I've seen such a difference. And I had to write it so it is in like I said, but one administrators had to say, I didn't blame myself, the administrator is out.
Get on with it.
That's what I'm like, I want everybody to know that it's not, I mean, if you're not amazing, she's gonna let you
Do
go.
a proposal for something.
And you could have a perfectly understood
Email saying, you know, you're just staying in the field. I was sure. It's like a grant. So we have many grants. That's what takes.
We have a lot of grants out there. We are taking, we do have an admission supportive inventory.
teachers.
That's a good idea. Wow.
She's just like,
And they're like, mini grants, donors choose.
I'm gonna stop your donors. I know you're writing notes
And
about
it's,
the model.
I mean, it's not so limited, like donors choose versus very.
We also have 60 local validate by
I live in Arizona.
Gathering data on teacher retention.
But it's not.
You can keep it's not done.
We really should.
So, we're trying to get specific feedback, specific No, in the school. They did give me the school first. I'm sorry. That was I went to the state convention. So what I heard was reading down and had before we get touched off on all those ideas. So I would say about brand new and so it's this whole school, you have to get somebody to teach them all. Incentives to advantages, takes advantages. Resources are, you know, so you got to see it. It's okay.
Everybody has first graders, Jordan. And your name? Okay, so how are you connected to this? Okay, where's your sister class? He's a sage.
All right, go ahead and find somewhere it sticks better to doors and walls than the brick. So find somewhere to stick them up there on the walls here, please.
Me too.
Yeah, see how you're gonna just want to jump on your spot.
Oh, I know. It's a wonderful business.
Where's the board? Oh, there it is. But you're gonna have to talk loud. Is there a card there? Nice. Okay, while it's fresh in your mind, we're going to talk about these for a minute and then we'll go for breaks. So, we're gonna go group by group and talk about these. Really great discussions going on. I really appreciate how intentional you were on it, about it, and how focused you were on the topic and staying right on it. I wish you all could hear everybody else's conversation. In fact, I had to turn the mic off so they didn't all hear the whole room. Hopefully they can hear that now. Oh, where are they? Can you hear me? They're on. Okay, good. So we'll go through and we'll have somebody just quickly talk about it. I know this is, we do this every single time. So we're going to do this on, we call it in our house superhero fast. It's the way that we get kids to move quicker. And so we're just going to do a quick synopsis. You don't need to do a whole lot of explanation. And we can ask any questions that you have as we go. But we're going to get through quickly. And I would like to, I know, pretty sure that most of you have something in there about funding that you would love, need, want. And so I have this poster that's crooked. I'll fix it. Can I have a scribe that would grab a marker and come up and write down the different things that people say? It doesn't have to be beautiful. We'll type it up and it'll be groovy. That's straight.
Debbie has really good handwriting.
Debbie does?
Yep, really good.
Would you mind?
Actually, it's really good too.
You've been voluntold, Debbie. Thank you. All right, so let's start with this first group up here.
You can trade off. We'll pick it too.
The 7 grading tips. Point out a spokesperson. Who has 7 grading tips?
Well, I'm the scribe now, so I can't go.
You can't, okay. 5.
All right, I'll do it.
Thank you.
So we talked about, I need to go over here to read it. There were, obviously the article had 7 tips for new teachers, so we broke it down into the 3 most essential things. Working with teachers on time management and prioritizing, so sometimes they need to be given permission not to grade everything. And then use tech tools to be more efficient with your grading and focus on feedback. Talked about using rubrics to, and we kind of elaborate on it a little bit, to empower students to not only self-assess based on the criteria in the rubric, but also to use that rubric as a tool to give feedback to each other. Mentor support, we felt like we needed or could use help with rubric design or of guidance on knowledge on how to design a rubric, I guess, examples and online resources, how to use tech tools efficiently and effectively, especially as more and more come out through that, find out what's most effective, time to meet with teachers to help them with time management and teach them how to prioritize resources that we have available already, school level and district level support. There's a ton of online resources. There are grants out there. We said Donors Choose, local foundations. Midas is working on, or they're working on micro-credentialing and badging in Midas, so we thought that would be a way to direct teachers for support and online learning. And then if we had a magic wand, funding for ongoing professional development, be it summer, after school, Saturday seminars, online, variety of options to meet teachers' needs. They don't like to be out of the classroom, and we don't want them out of the classroom. And then assessment tools, so funding for those yearly subscription costs. I know that a lot of the great tools are expensive for most districts yearly, and then of course training to use those. And then with that, money for devices for both students and teachers to use those tools, and then just more time in the day would be great.
Thank you, time in the day.
Any burning questions for this group? Okay, moving on. How about the back?
Want to go, babe? No. You already got me now.
Our article was about building resilience, but what we especially liked was the author's definition of building resilience, which is bouncing back with grace instead of staying down, because we're all going to get down, but how do we bounce back with grace? And her 3 big ideas, she helps her students reflect positively about conflicts through a journaling protocol she has. You'll read about it in the article. She uses assessment to drive instruction. If things don't go well, she revisits the assessment and decides why and talks with her students about it and then revises. And she talked about a way to fix maybe tension-driven or conflict-driven conversations between teachers, how to avoid that, and that was also good. So what do we need as mentors to help these new teachers? A variety of protocols to help teachers reflect or discuss or set goals, a variety of ways to measure student learning, not just a test. That's really the least useful way to measure student learning. And so we as mentors should have a variety of other ways that teachers can measure student learning, shifting the focus from grades to learning. And also ways for new teachers to avoid any kind of conflict that could be stressful to them in their first years and help them or cause them to lose heart in the profession. We've had a lot of resources, mostly our fantasticness, that we share with people through long, hard-fought years of learning these things the hard way. And also we have plenty of specialists, other coaches in the district or charters or anywhere. And we had much the same thing that we would wish is paid time to collaborate, but you had a lot of different ideas. We also hate having teachers out of classrooms. If we're going to do it, we've got to make it useful. So. Thank you.
Any questions on that one? Nope. All right. Gold paper group.
There we go. Okay, this is actually an excellent article. Everybody should take a copy of this.
Anyways, an article by Megan Clark, 6 tips for thriving throughout the rest of your first year of teaching. So the 3 big ideas: plan and prepare, management, be consistent, and balanced life. I'm going to talk just really quickly about each of these. Plan and prepare. In my department, there's 4 teacher specialists, and we see about 700 teachers when we do walkthroughs twice a year. And when we always see the planning portion, but I mean the being prepared is where the teachers, fail or not, stepping up to the plate. They're planned. They know it's math page 26, but do they have the manipulatives for the math, lesson ready? And is the seating arranged and all of this? Management. Another thing that we consistently see, and this goes along with the article too, are teachers consistent? You teach procedures and routines, but you have to be consistent every single time. And the behavior management plan, same thing. You have to follow through every single time and be consistent. Balanced life, especially in junior high and high school, teachers will have 200, papers to correct every single day. And it's so interesting to see these poor teachers that are new coming in, these provisional teachers. They're correcting every single paper, and they have no time, no life outside of correcting papers. And so, they have to strike a balance between some of these papers we're not going to correct. And I really do need to go skiing this weekend, and I have this other life. I'll hurry. Okay, support. Resources. For observation and time for coaching cycle. Granted, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of funds that we've set aside to take teachers on observations to observe master teachers. And one of the things that we talked about was that these teachers can't go on their own. I mean, the mentor needs to go with the teacher and even participate in like a coaching cycle type of situation. Resources that we have available, that mentors already have available in Granite and Jordan and the rest of the people that were represented in our group, curriculum maps, checklists, and mentor training. And the magic wand. This would be so great. One of the main things we talked about was these teachers coming out of the university, they have a lot of theory. They have a lot of theory toward practice. I facilitate and teach 61 pedagogy classes. I don't teach all of them, but for the ARL teachers, and it's all practical application. So the magic wand that we were talking about, it would be great if these universities focused more on the practical application and a little bit less on the theory. So when these teachers come into the classroom, just like the ARL teachers going through our pedagogy courses, that, hey, we learned something tonight, we're implementing it in the classroom tomorrow morning. They come back the next week and tell us how it went. And then also we're out there coaching them as well. Sorry it took so long, but that's great.
Can I throw something in? Yes, please. I'm with the gold group, and I was thinking magic wand wise. Once the year starts, we start hitting them with so much stuff that they are just, waterboarded. That's the term I'm looking for. I wish there was funding or a way that we could engage these people during the summertime before they have signed on to their contract. A way
For their contract.
I think a lot of teachers sign their contracts, a lot of them in February, March, and April, and they still haven't been in the classroom. So even they would be contracted teachers, even though their contract hasn't started. So maybe in August, if there was some paid time for some new teacher training, I think that would be a great idea.
I would check with your LEA leaders. Some can work it out where it's actually not the teaching contract, but a contract for them to come do some work and to, learn and those types of things. So it's not part of their teaching contract. It's a contract with the teacher to come in and do some things. And so there are ways to legally do it. You just need to check one with your negotiation, your agreement, and then check with your LEA leadership, whether it's a charter or a district, to find out. But I think it's a great idea. It's tough when some of us come in the week before school starts and say,
But almost every,
but the more you can help, the better, right?
a lot of non-teaching professions have a pre-service onboarding course that they require you to have finished before you begin. And we've started one a couple times. We're kind of fits and starts, but if it was online, you'd be free. The new teacher would be free to do that at any time, and then have an additional component where they had to get into 3 or 4 classrooms before school started or whatever. And here's a list of your choices. So we've talked about it, but we've never done it. But that online makes it doable for them, whatever their schedule is.
Let's go on to the next one.
Discussion like we just did.
Last one. Let's go out with a bang. Come on. And whoever scribes doesn't have to report either. They don't want to.
Okay, so our last group starts with setting priorities as a new teacher. Was called the title of the article. The three top things that we saw are big ideas were build confidence in the new teacher, that they can handle all the situations, stuff that they have to in the classroom. Second one was show you care, be enthusiastic and personable. So we talked about, we expect the teachers to do that with the students, and that relationship with stuff that they develop with those students is really valuable. Us as mentors need to be able to do that with them, show that we care, be enthusiastic, and be personable with them. And then listen and connect. We need to listen and connect with our mentors. We expect them and also help them to our teachers, listen and connect with our teachers and help them make connections within their buildings, whether it's their PLCs, teachers around them, building mentors, whoever it is, but help them make connections within the buildings as well. We talked about support that new teachers need or we need, teams, such as grade level teams, district teams, district support. We need that. Teachers need grade level support at their school level. Depending on our situations within the schools, we also need the support of administration and other things to run an effective mentoring program and to have time to work with the teachers. It's helpful if it's systematic, if there's a system built in place to provide professional development and other things for the teachers. Resources. Some of the biggest resources new teachers need is time to be able to observe others, observe their practices. Subs coverage, that's been an issue in our district this year. That's not a resource that we do have, but that's always a challenge, I think, is to make it possible for the teacher to leave the classroom to go observe others, feel comfortable doing that, and have somebody in place to cover their classroom in an effective way as well. Other resources, you could have good administrative support. Some schools have building mentors. Need teams, we need coaches, mentors, mentor communities, and last but not least, we need money to support those different things. So,
What's your magic wand over there?
Magic wand was time to do just different things. Funding for subs is, I don't know if anybody pays substitutes enough to be able to get good subs regularly and consistently in the classroom on a regular basis. Time for teachers to go observe other teachers, also for us to be able to go and observe them and give good feedback. So if anybody on my team wants to add to that or fix anything I said, go ahead.
Great.
I might have missed something.
That's okay. That's all right. It's a good place to start. The fun thing about listening to these is that's what this group is moving toward. You're going to be each other's support. You are going to work through these together. So you're supporting each other in order to get what it is that you need. I've already heard so many of you sharing ideas on how you meet some of the needs that you have. Whole groups talking about it. Yes, this is a great resource I have. And somebody says, oh, I don't have that. You guys learn so much more from each other.
So question about money. You mentioned earlier that you possibly get grants or funding from sources that could be made available to districts. Is that what you're talking about? How would we become aware of those types of funds?
Usually that's if there's a big need out there and there's a lot of people that have something they want to go for, and it's something that aligns with our board strategic plan and Phil's needs that meet broad audience. Right now, the big thing is big picture. It's not pockets of perfection that we're looking for. We're looking for things that we can use.
So one thing that I heard multiple times, which I very much agree with, is getting new teachers out to observe other teachers, which is something that I do. But I just go right to the principal and say, will you support this teacher while I take her and another teacher out? And they almost always do. But I could see from in this community that would be nice to have some funding specifically for that, for observations, and actually it's paying for subs for those observations, and then we could, as we take teachers out, maybe apply for those funds. I don't know. But I heard multiple people mention it, and I totally wholeheartedly agree with it. That's an important PD, professional learning, for new teachers. So.
I just have a quick question. A gal in our group brought up a good point as far as books and texts that, to provide for our provisional teachers. And not that our provisional teachers have a whole lot of time to read, because they absolutely don't, but in our monthly mentor meetings, the mentor, could do, like a book study. And because there are so many great books out there, like somebody else brought up Teach Like a Champion, and doing techniques, a couple of techniques each meeting, or engaging students with poverty in mind, or the growth mindset, or, Class Acts by Annette Brinkman. All of these books. Is there any way that by one book a year for these new provisional teachers, or
That's something to think about. Let me tell you how the money structure works.
okay.
Biggest piece is Title II funding, which your district leadership or your charter leaders decide. They have to apply for it. They have to make a plan. They have to say, this is how we're spending the funding, and this is what we're doing. They have a lot to pay for mentoring. They get funds for mentoring. Now, whether that's to pay mentors, whether some of them specifically spell out, or subs, those types of things. I get a lot of professional books, and that might not be for that specific point, but that is part of an approvable Title IIA expense. I mentioned Title IIA a couple of years ago, and I kind of got in trouble, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let me just caution you, don't go run to the top of your hierarchy and say, I know we have Title IIA funding and I want it, or I need some of it, or what are you doing with it? You all have an order by which you do those things. You all have a supervisor or something of that nature. Even if you are a charter director, you have a board, whatever. And your boards all have to approve. District and charter boards have to approve your Title IIA plan. But there is nothing wrong with going through what you need to inquire about what they're doing. Because I'm telling you, I have been doing Title IIA for 8 years, almost 8 years now. The plans haven't changed much. For 8 years, people are just pretty much doing the same thing. So now everything, because of ESSA, it all has to be evidence-based, not research-based. So everything that is implemented has to have evidence that it is an effective practice. It's no longer, there's some research behind this, so we're doing it. You can research the heck out of everything, right? You can research KWL and say that's evidence-based. Great practice, lots of fun, works for little bits of here and there, but there is no research that says that is effective. If you're using KWL, I'm not saying anything bad, but and so I'm pushing them harder to be doing something different that has that evidence. This year, I'm going a little easy on them because it's the first year where it's been like this, but they're also used to me pushing back and saying no. So that is a place to get some funding. Your hierarchy, check and see, and they may already have, that's what they're using it for, and you can inquire and say, oh, well, what with mentoring? And they may say, well, part of your salary, or, they may tell you, and it's something that they're already doing, and you just didn't realize that's how it's being funded. Because when we're in the trenches, we don't always know where all the money's coming from, how they're grading those funds to get to where they need to. So ask questions. Raise your hand first, right? The other thing as far as money, other money that is in my little team, I have a little bit for educator effectiveness, which makes it pretty broad. Let me check the standing of my funding, and when our next meeting is February. Okay. In February, I can have an amount for you, and if we have a subgroup that wants to work on one idea, we can't do a little bit here, a little bit here, because we won't. The money, there's not enough money to go do little things here and here. We're going to have to decide on one thing that you want to work on and write a proposal. We'll do it all together. We won't do it during one of these meetings. We'll meet another time. Push all through that. Write a proposal up, write how we're going to do it, and then go for it. And then a lot of you mentioned those grants. I'm signed up for all of my children's schools. I have elementary, middle school, and high school. And I'm signed up to be notified when any of those teachers want something. And you better believe, as a working mom, I can't be in those classrooms. I donate to every single project that they do. Part of it's out of guilt. But another part of it is I know dang well what it's like to be in that classroom and not have it. I made $19,000 my first year, and I had $5,000 in receipts. And that doesn't count all the stuff I didn't keep my receipts for. I know what it's like. And so really get the grant stuff going out there. You've got lots of people that support that. It doesn't hurt to ask. You have a need. There may be people that aren't aware that you have it. Or they may just assume it's happening. Unless you ask, they may not do anything about it. They meaning those that control the purse strings, right? And make the decisions. Doesn't mean you need to go to your BA, your business administrator, and say, hey, I need, There's money out there, not just here. I'm not talking that I have hundreds of thousands of dollars, all right? But I do have some. Let me look at my budget, project that out. And next February, we'll come up for anybody that's interested in working with it, and we'll come up with a focus, and we'll move forward on it. And we can plan on doing something like that once a year. In fact, I can ask for more if they're seeing things like this happening and they're seeing some results and some promise, then I can request more funding for next year, and we can do some more. It might be a pilot year. We try it. It worked really well. We're going to go. It fell on its face. We see no way to save it. Not going to do it. Or, you know what? We almost had it. Let's continue it next year. We'll get some more people involved. There's just all kinds of things we can do. On what you want. I can share ideas, but you guys can. I know that any of the professional learning, if it is required by code or rule that the USBE provide it, we are required to offer it also online. That you have online access, like a webinar, and it's supposed to be live. Now, if it's something like this where it's not required, we don't have to. They put in place a law. You must make it available. And so keep an eye out for those things when, the story comes down to you and it says, hey, there's some expected trainings or certifications or anything like that the state is requiring. You can have online access to it. So watch for that. Yes, we're just barely starting the online micro-credentials or badging, as some people call it. That's a ways out. but it's very promising. And I know some of you are already doing that in your LEAs, which is great. Keep going with what you're going. We have a pilot group in Davis that is doing something so we can work out all the kinks and determine whether or not we want to give credit as a state, because that's a lot of ownership on our part to say, yeah, this is worth state credit. So we're working through that. Don't give up on it. Keep going. If you find other districts or charters are doing it and you want to find out, chat with them. Maybe they'll let you know. I don't know.
Jeannie,
Yes.
I have a comment from a Jeannie
Cameron?
Cameron.
Uh-huh.
It says, we have funds to support observation of master teachers via negotiated agreements.
Huh. You do too?
2 days. 2 days.
any educator?
Great. Okay, so if you can get if you can get your way in professionally on questioning those negotiated contracts, we don't usually deal with that with the charters. Charters started a group once to do that, and I think it kind of fell by the wayside. But if you have negotiated agreements, bless you, and you can add in there, that's great. Thank you, Jeannie.
Crystal Bassett says, JUAB uses micro-credentials from Digital Promise. Send me a message if you'd like to learn more.
Okay, and Crystal Bassett, I think I have her on that list actually. If you want to have her type in there her email address, and then we'll share it with everybody. Digital Promise, I believe, charges you. And I know some districts are just doing their own. Some districts are paying someone to come in and work with them. So there's a lot of different options out there. Quality, cost, all that. And these others, I think, are really observation days and coaching cycles. That's really a perfect use of Title II-A funding, because there is evidence behind how critical that is and how effective it is. So that's really big. I will tell you with the pre-service, right now the USBE is in the middle of creating the program requirements, adjusting the program requirements for higher ed, for teacher preparation, and then we're getting ready to overhaul administrator preparation. The rigor is increasing in that it's going to be very, very student focused rather than big, broad higher ed. So it's getting more down to focus on those students as they come to them. They're also have agreed and are all about it. It's not just, all right, tell us to do it, we'll do it. To get students in the classroom sooner, not just at the end. Because we're all at least out of college by 2 years. Yeah, I think we all got about 2 years, right, since college. We got all of ours at the end. It was the big grand finale, swan song. They're getting them out in the very beginning in pieces, doing different things. It is one of the requirements for a teacher leader. We have a rule and a code, piece of code about teacher leaders. And we're doing some work on that right now too. And it's required that they mentor cooperating teachers and their student teachers and work with them. So higher ed is being very open to anything that's going on. They're coming to us with ideas. They want to move toward competency instead of saying, take this class and this class and this class and this class. And so we have a lot of really good things coming. It's very messy work, so it's taking us a little bit. We'll probably come through with, something and get started and then tweak as we go, just like all of us do. With the teacher leader, proposing to leadership and eventually the board that we not do a competency, not do an endorsement, but competencies. Endorsements or do this class, this class, this class, this class costs you $600 a class, that kind of thing. So we have, nationwide, but even in Utah, we're moving toward competency rather than forcing you butts in the seat time. So, But higher ed, praise to them. They're doing really great things and new ideas and bringing new ideas to us as well.
Competency, do you mean competency of content and stuff? Because I worry that if we're just doing competency on the content, that doesn't mean.
There will be implemented starting in January of 2020 a pedagogical assessment, which means that, and it's going to be very rigorous, they have to be observed by an outside party and pass. Instead of doing the Praxis 2, early, this is an actual, they come in and observe the student teacher. And so the
state provides that, or is there they have to find their own?
That's being discussed right now. Our universities are trying to do some of that before their students get out. We're working with them to see how cost effective we can make this as a partnership. They're looking at a few different programs. And of course, we would try to subsidize that as much as possible, like we did with the license funds. When we get our legislature so excited about recruitment and retention, it's really a time that's ripe to be asking for support to get teachers here, to keep teachers here.
We're just talking about the ones that come through a university program or something. We're not talking about ARL. And
If you want to get to a professional level license, you have to pass a pedagogical assessment.
Just like you would have had to have passed the Praxis 2 PLT.
It's the same thing, it's just taking PLT out and putting pedagogical assessment.
So you'll create a whole system of trainings for 5 or 6 people in your district to be rated, certificated.
We're not quite sure how it will be as far as what the LEA's responsibilities will be. There will be standards already set that have to be met. And I presume it'll be something like we always do. We've got a model that you can follow. Or you can do your own thing as long as it aligns with the expectations. It's really wide open right now. It's just really just getting into it.
So I just have a quick question to piggyback on his question about ARL. So the ARL, how will they be trained in the pedagogy before, they are observed? And I know the classes, they're doing granite. All of that go away? Or how will we train these teachers?
Oh, no, we'll still expect them to get training, not just being assessed on it. What the expectation is that everybody starts everybody that starts an associate, regardless of how you got there to that beginning point, has to do everything the same in order to move up in your career. Trying to level that playing field as much as possible and keep the expectations as high as they can. Because I'll tell you what, we have APT and ARL teachers that come in and they can rock the world of some of our university prepared teachers. So it's not a guaranteed, but yes, that's one of those things we definitely would work out. We'd want to make sure it's not chronologically decided yet, but of course we wouldn't want to.
So those classes won't be going away. I guess that's my question.
No, they're going to need the classes. Yeah, we don't want to just test it.
I think I missed a little bit of that conversation as far as the pedagogical testing or evaluations. Is this just for ARL or for all new teachers that are moving to the next level? And it's no longer going to be the Praxis or
The content Praxis, but the Praxis 2, which was the PLT,
yes.
will be gone.
Okay, so content practices are still in place, just the PLT in 2020. PLT is gone and that it will be replaced. Now, my question, I guess, was, is that going to be developed by the state or by individual districts or what?
So we will have standards that have to be measured and looked at. And then we're looking at EdTPA. We're looking at a couple projects that are already out there around the nation. And so what we'll do is we'll end up developing our standards, our Utah standards, and probably We'll create a model and we'll tell you here are some third-party vendors if you want to use them. Or if you want to create your own, you've got to do it and get approval by the board.
Okay.
Not completely decided, but that's usually how these processes go.
About 2019.
We're going to just keep everybody going through, and those that it is going to mess up the flow of whatever they're doing for the licensing, they'll be worked with individually. So nobody will have to double do anything. So right now, just keep going as is. Just know that this pedagogical assessment is coming.
You said that it's going to roll out in January of 2020, but when will it go into effect? So if it's announced in January 2020, will it go effect immediately?
It goes into effect, because right now it's being announced.
Okay.
It goes into effect January 2020, but if you've already got somebody we'll work with individuals so they're not double doing anything.
So 1819, the I program as usual. And then 1920 is going to start just kind of business as usual, but in January of 2020, then it'll go into full effect in January 2020.
It won't necessarily affect the induction and mentoring rule and processes. Not going to take away anything that we're doing. What I need to say.
Well, I'm just talking, of course, the mentoring part is separate. I'm just talking about I'm referring to just the licensing piece. And so there were the I requirements that were needed and required in order to go from level 1, level 2. And those just stay in place this year, just as is for 1819. But then next year, because we're going to kind of start under that I umbrella, but then in January, it goes into full effect.
It'll go in full effect for those that are just coming on, or you will finish your year with EYE.
In 1920 as well. Okay. So 1819 and 1920 will finish,
EYE.
but new hires after January of 2020 will be under the new system. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Good question.
You would still do EYE.
Don't panic. We're going to help you through all of this.
Okay, so I, 1819, 1920 we stay I, 2021 is when there will be a whole, will all of I go away?
EYE as it is now goes away. We're going to talk about the new rule in a minute.
Okay.
And
Allison Riddle asked, will individual university programs have their own competency exam ready for spring semester 2020?
they have plans to, yes. That's part of why the 2020 deadline is to allow them to get theirs in place as well.
Why is it January instead of like between school years?
It actually kind of gives everybody a time to adjust and get ready. So it's usually the planning ahead so that when you start that next year, or if you're bringing somebody in the middle of that year, so that when they're ready to start that next year, they've already started on the path that they are. I mean, if it catches anybody, we'll get them.
Good question.
Yes.
Allison Riddle asked, so the student teachers will graduate in May of 2020 with a professional license. They've met the competencies at the
That is the plan, yes, that the universities will offer and provide the pedagogical assessment. Now, they may charge the students to do it. I don't know what that's going to look like, but when they come out of the university, if they want to be at a professional level, then they will in fact have to have had the pedagogical assessment.
One question about the articles. I'm new, so I was here in August, but you said you were going to post the articles to what?
We have a website that is for mentors right now. It's labeled EYE. I put using the term EYE, but that's still what we're following as far as rule goes, but we're doing best practice, right? And so on educator effectiveness supporting programs, there are several tabs over which we do.
So just go to the state website or whatever, USBE, and
I'll show you because we're going to go in and look at the board
okay.
meeting minutes, so I'll show you quickly. I'm glad you asked. I'll show you quickly how to get to everything.
Thank you.
And Lan is going to help me. We're going to set up a specific protocol to make sure that we get every piece on there and online, because I don't know that that's been happening.
Another clarifying question. So the PLs or the praxis content test, do you anticipate that still being a piece of the licensing? The praxis content test will stay. Okay.
This point, yes.
All right, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So if I'm an ARL teacher and I've taught 3 years and I get my level 1, let's say December of 2019. And right into January, how do I go, I just got my level 1, how do I keep progressing through and access because I
I would imagine, now this is all draft, all preliminary. I would highly recommend that you encourage them if they want to do it that way. Some people test better to do that before January 2020. However, if you really want to know how good they are at teaching and working with kids, I want to wait, see how they do. Wait till after the January 2020 and have it.
Kind of a personality thing. Some people want to get in, get stuff done. Other people want to wait till the month before their 3 years are up and take all that time.
Your LEAs will decide ultimately. Our board's really great right now about hands off, and they're going to give you parameters. Everybody keeps using the term right now is guardrails. And a lot of this will be anything that has to do with us, we'll help you along the transition with whatever it is that you decide.
We're stuck, Jeannie, between wanting to have these highly trained teachers and filling classrooms.
Yep.
So I like it. We got to do what we got to do.
That's right. You're all different. And I'll tell you what, I was not happy with APT at all. I was madder than mad. I couldn't go into the boardroom when they were talking about it because I don't have very good poker face. But as I've heard what the LEAs are doing with those APT teachers when they come in, the support they're giving them, the pedagogy help they're giving them, those teachers are doing just fine. And if they're not, they're gone. I mean, there's no messing around with it. That's it. So they're turning out to be some really good teachers and have some really promising ways of getting, it's a promising way of getting more teachers into the profession. And it's also a really quick dismissal if it doesn't work, if they're not a good fit.
Do you find that there's more APT teachers in the secondary world than in the elementary?
Yes.
I do not know that. I don't have that data.
I think so.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be the case logically.
Yeah.
All right, we're taking a 12-minute break. So let's be back here at 10:55, excuse me.
Where are you at? There were other ones you said.
Great team.
I'm glad you're enjoying it though.
And I do not see them tell me.
I know something about me.
That's like coming up over me. Doesn't say anything. Please don't.
Oh, Michelle?
She's doing good.
And the flexibility. Yeah, it really is.
We just
Figure out what procedures they need.
so we can do something.
Why won't you?
Such a good idea. That's very, works a lot of hours.
That lady's email address and you need to feel.
I like her dog.
Oh, no. No, it's my daughter and her husband. And our photo.
Yeah.
He will be one in January. Yeah, getting there. Yeah.
This is adorable.
It's been okay because I was there in March when he was really new, and then I was there in July.
I've been on break, but
We want you to stand up and talk to everybody. It's perfectly fine. I just trying to figure out what
And
you're
they
doing.
live in, yeah, you know, they live in a good shape too.
so like I scratched it.
Are we there every time you want to?
No, we're
take afternoon, right?
Yeah, it's so well, and just like their attention span is so small too. Like, a lot of teachers stay so bad.
And this is a nice one too. But now I put.
And then 5 minutes.
It's like immediately rewarding because you've got like this much strength to get stuff, you know. Yeah, they had to train them too.
Always. I know with Jen and Jen together.
They call the one, he's one little one that he has to, we're like a shot for bags.
Oh, yes.
And that he'll just be right underneath. And so they were training him that they had 2 words, one for this, one for that. And he said it was tiny. So it was tough. So doing that was super cute because he knew both. Yeah, yeah. Go to each one. That's so smart. Yeah, we're trying to train her too on like a spot. So we have a spot in our hallway that has a little place stuck on. We want to get her to be like, there is a spot to just go and sit. Yeah, stay there. Yeah, so well. Yeah, but now I feel like she's never gonna get out. She's like, I bet she does. I mean, they were had when we had a dog before she passed.
Exactly the same. That's the question.
That's what, you know. And she's my color. It's just both have he dogs. It's taken me forever to break the she. Now I'm like, how long would she stay? Oh, she'd stay. She was, yeah, she would stay there. You know, if she came on, we'd just say, if I remember how she'd go right back. And she wasn't allowed to go upstairs, like she couldn't wander the house. And so she was just, mostly she was now. One time, I got a lab. So we bring her in.
Really good practice move.
I like that really hard right now.
I'm trying to think of what parameters I need. Because we have 2 now.
No, you don't. No, honestly.
One who just got really well trained.
He's hard now, so
He's in a great place for it. 2 dogs. It's really good. I'm a little worried about it. He's a little grumbly with her. Like he's not going to tell these things.
No, right? No. Okay, I'm wondering.
But other than that, he's very, always the other things. I just knew that was probably one way that we're going to give him the same way. And then it goes to hers. All every figure out how to change that.
Working on
But other than that, he's doing well. Just most of his notices.
I'm not saying that.
That's where it's
I'm wondering what some response to
in the building. So many teachers too of them. So they just it will be 2 years. Okay, this is her dog. She said she's really interested in the dogs. It's really enjoy it. It's really and he's like 10 years, but his hair is like he's very February. This is my open receipt. Is it like this last week? They have like a
person. It's really a split, so it's like the.
Yeah.
This woman is amazing.
So the first one is she's down to 22,000. So anyway, yeah, she's so excited. I'm glad that you know, with her desperately to be useful. So it was the same with us. And I felt that you They do. Yeah. My kids are downstairs and they have easy access to teachers. Team leadership position. It was a good down, but it's like, so he was born in January, so that's on to or whatever. And like when you get off the elevator, I do go up this way, right down, like, but and then you just pause and there's more. Like, oh my gosh. It was just so easy. Right. So it's like sometimes I use them, you know, sometimes 90 years old. I can't start to understand a lot more. But you know, and even my little granddaughter, she's doing online stuff now, and she's been slower. The principal is super high. There's so much you can tell her.
Then there were like, you know, Chinese.
And so, and it's seriously because my grandmother is starting to love that pretty well. And like to that, I just and that's why everybody has something I do with my kids.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, because I'm like, what? And she said, Grandma, she said. They also have. Somewhere on 4.5-year-old. Yeah. No, you go ahead. So you have. Goodbye. My other daughter has like 10 educational so and they are so maybe there's other guys, but no, she's like, I put my finger on her. And it's sorry. You know, we're just and she's 14 weeks, so we just past 20. Because she wants one to just feel like so hard. Yeah. And so, we are we've been writing our after those 3 we are at least teaching the older kids are they were yes, that's true. I had my third child, my second one was in kindergarten. That's what they think we do. When I had my fourth child, well, number 4 was not my child. Just happy with work. You know
They're the teachers. I do still feel like I because I do everyone the way they do it, but I have done it that way.
It's like her USB cord, or our RGB cord. The teachers that I know are there.
It's funny, it turned out to be really working in my teacher's name. I introduced her to the teacher. This is Janice. She's still in the classroom.
I think because I did it hearing what they're doing. She's waking up. And I think that's probably walking.
To play it by ear.
I just didn't bring any of my stuff. My daughter, I just and she like said,
How was the wedding?
It's a lot of work for me. And she's pregnant. I'm like, that's why I'm like, oh, it's whatever.
So it got out just fine, no problem. But then when for about 20 minutes from our house, so I started to return flights again. And they were looking really great. I so much that I
All right, take a couple minutes to browse through. We are on draft number 4 of the entering and induction rule. Draft 4 of this. It's gone to the board and then it's gone back and then it's gone to the board and then it's gone back.
Did you get one?
So much.
Give them a lot of fun.
Look at it.
You know what?
Very full.
Check it out. It doesn't matter. Bring it.
It's awesome.
All right, if anybody needs more copies, let me know. I don't know if I put it up on your phone. Let's take a quick look at it. Just so you understand, as each of the drafts have occurred, there is a color coding up at the top. Anything that's crossed through, they're saying, no way, take it out. Not no way necessarily, but take it out. Anything that's underlined is new language.
So do these people have it?
I don't know how much you have. Where the other stuff is.
I've been sending it since. That's because maybe they've been left out in previous. Oh, include.
Okay, so there's associate. And it's and then. Oh, okay. An associate for professional. See, it encompasses the area. Okay, is that Amy? See, you could put professional, but this is what.
If you haven't got all the way through it, that's okay. I'll give you some more time in a minute. I just kind of want you to have an idea of what's in there. So we're going to look at the listen to part of a board committee meeting. It's about 10 minutes, just a snippet that has to do specifically with this, so we don't have to watch the whole thing. I'm a junkie, so I watch them all, and any of them that I miss, I watch. But for your viewing pleasure, it's down to about 10 minutes. A couple of the things. Well, first let me tell you how to get to our website really quick. So most of you know our homepage is schools.utah.gov. If you don't, you will. What do you do now? If you go down to the middle, it says Inside USBE. These are all the subcategories. Right in the middle is Departments and Programs.
Hey, there's our girl.
There's Kelly.
Hey,
Wait a minute. Dun, dun, dun. All right, and then this is broken out by all the different sections that we have. Only one you need to care about anything as far as, really is teaching and learning. So when you click on teaching and learning, down here on the right side, where it says program menu, first one down is going to list all the content areas and all the other stuff that we worked on. So that's where you're going to get into the majority of our stuff, and that's where we're going to be going in. There are some other good resources there. This is where we're headed. So academic areas and support programs. We're a supporting program, so over on the right, come down to educator effectiveness. We'll find our little group. Scroll down. I'm translating very well to this. You see all the different things that we do and talk about. Right now, it's mentioned it's early years enhancement. I think what I'm going to do is change that to mentoring / UIE so that people know what it is, because I think that still have some confusion with UIE. So I'm going to switch that just so you know. But you'll click on that blue bar. And it opens up everything we have here. So this will lead you all right, so let me give you the brief of what it will look like. Want to go to, for the new teachers, if they need to find out about licensure, they can go here. Mentors that need to learn more about it, they can go there. That's the licensing site. This right here is the brochure for the level 1 right now. Level 1 teachers, the brochure is there. So down here says mentor coordinators. And it says here's all the stuff below, and there's nothing below. So we'll start with this meeting, and then we'll go back and get the last meeting. And that is where I'm going to have the meetings listed by date. So November 29, 2018, when you click on it, be the PowerPoint, will be all the materials that you had handed out. Lana will scribe all of the stuff that we talk about and put that in a document and put it there so you have that should you ever want to think about that again. And anything that we bring up and talk about will be there. Including the recording of meeting. The recording can hold things up a little bit, and getting that from Jerry and our great AV guy, and so we'll probably put it all up the way it is, and then we'll get the recording up later, so at least the basics are there. Jerry, by the way, our tech guy, the guy that came in really tall, dude, he runs the Jumbotron for the Jazz games. He's cool. He's cool. So that's where it will be. It's right there. I didn't. Okay, yeah, that's where it'll be. So. Things before I jump on here. first one is if you will look at lines, or at line number 41, I'm just going to put a little mark next to that because this version came out after this discussion. And so they're going to say lines 36 through 40, lines 36 through 40. Well, now with the changes, it's the area in talking about 30 that starts on line 41 now. So when you hear them say, what we meant in lines 36 through 40, they're really saying what they say that you hear lines 41 through however long that goes. So just a note on that. Some of the big ideas to listen for is what board's criticality of the message that this sends, that there will be a model program put out there for induction and that type of thing. Mental competencies are mentioned. Talk about the importance of principles. And along those lines with the principles is a discussion, though very short, about mentors cannot be evaluators. That has a little twist sometimes. So,
Yeah, line 50.
Is that where it is? They crossed it out, right?
Well, cross it out, line 50, they made it its own sentence. Crossed out 49.
Not see they kept that in there. All right, I'll have a discussion with them because sometimes they don't think rural or small, right? If you're a small charter, you're a small rural area, the only person you have to be the mentor is the principal. And actually, David Smith is doing principal partnership networks around the state this year. And it is basically these networks of principals coming together and talking about things. And one of the requests that he has had from the principals is to learn how to coach and mentor their teachers even when they have to do the evaluation. They should be able to do that. For the last 10 years, we've said, no, can't do that. Well, they should be able to do that, right? Because there shouldn't be the end of the year evaluation shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, the teacher or the principal. There should be conversations going the whole time. So I'm preaching to the choir, I know that, but yeah, we'll have to. I'll chat with somebody on that one. No, what? No, it says may not. It doesn't say shall not.
It's the may not.
It's may not. But that's still, I have to think about that.
Shall, that's like, they may not. It may not mean shall.
Shall not.
Sorry.
You hear that? I'll go to the class. I don't know that may not is any different than shall. Especially when you're talking in the negative. Instead of may do this, shall do that. May not is the same.
Except for in certain circumstances.
About probably might consider, possibly, maybe not. How about that?
That is a possibility, maybe. Not really, but. All right, I can't get my sound going. Anybody smarter than me? Oh yeah, you're all smarter than me.
Just tear it up. Us there is. You first. So just this thing. Doesn't matter. This is the PLT. If they're in their second or third.
Sorry, guys. I can hold it up to the ceiling, maybe.
Oh, okay. So she's done.
So sorry. She's going to get Jerry.
This happened to every single one of us. Happened to me last
And I had
Monday.
it set up earlier. When I was on the road doing all of the principal certifications, that got used so much.
It got
Every
loose.
time that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I literally held my computer up to a microphone.
We used to have microphones, but we don't now.
PLT class. Definitely for this year and even for next year. It's even harder. And the questions. And what do we?
So what are your thoughts on that then while we're waiting for Jerry as far as whoever mentors cannot evaluate? It's okay if you don't agree with me and you think that that's okay. Your thought.
Are you asking for any thoughts?
Yeah.
On line 30, a documented professional learning plan. It reminds me of the literacy plan that my elementary literacy coordinator has to submit to the state. Is that what you're talking about?
It's supposed to look different for everybody.
She gets like an outline or whatever, and then she meets with her team or her group and she puts together a plan. So I pictured it looking like that.
I'm sure it's something similar.
On line 60, so as part of that, on line 55, it said the superintendent shall, and then on 60, provide training for principals to oversee and support mentor training and facilitate the sharing of best practices between LEAs.
Shall develop a model, including model competencies.
Okay, yeah, shall develop a model including model competencies for mentors, and in part of that, to provide training for mentors based on the competencies developed in accordance with subsection 8A, and then provide training for principals to oversee and support mentor training, and then D, facilitate the sharing of best practices between LEAs.
Okay.
The thing that just flagged there, and maybe I'm not reading it completely correctly, is that usually it's, and I'm coming from a big district, so it's usually district-based that does the mentor training and not the principals. So I think if it was individually left to principals, you'd have a really wide array of
We're actually supposed to create a model training is what this is. And if they've gone from model and they separated it, they should have changed B and C to an I and a double I.
Underneath.
So it should say develop a model induction program, including model competencies. Well, it should say including, colon, I, competencies for mentors, I, training for mentors based on the competencies, something like that. So the intent is that we develop a model that can be used like it is now. You can do your own, But there will be a model developed, which is what the technical sprint is. Yeah, that's not the intent, and I'm glad you saw that. We already know that providing training.
Just regarding the number 50, are you wanting to say that they could evaluate your educators?
Or you could just say may. Well, if get rid of not. A trained educator, mentor educator may have the responsibility to evaluate a new educator.
And to your point, that's because some in rural districts, principals need to play that role. So, well, can't we just leave the mentor piece there and have something that says something about administration? Because I would hate there to be wiggle room.
I agree.
Or any districts to think, I can't bring it for a principal, I can't do this, therefore, because it's printed, you're the mentor, I would like to give you that responsibility. Can't we put something in there for admin and keep this the way it is to protect the mentors, not to be given that evaluation hat? See what I'm saying? I can see
Principal can evaluate, but a mentor shouldn't.
ever.
Unless the mentor
Right.
is the
That's
administrator.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So stated that
But
way.
I think it was squared. Principals will be like, oh, well, you're the mentor.
That's right.
You're the evaluator.
And I'm a coach too, and I can see them coming to me, and I try so much, as Jana knows, I'm just keeping my hats.
Well, your principals have a lot on their plates, so yes, I can see how that would happen.
But I would prefer to have a separation there, so we protect that language. I don't know. But if you,
But
But it
it
could work.
says unless the principal
Is
is the mentor or something.
It still could work that you could evaluate people in your district who you were not the mentor for.
absolutely, absolutely.
So you could still be a trained evaluator based on whatever things we all decide are the things to do. So you wouldn't do your own people, you do the people somewhere else.
But unless it's written in there, I see there being too much biggities that would.
Yeah, this is where the problem comes in that we want local control. We want you all to do it the way that it's going to work for you. And sometimes we're trying to juggle that with, we have to put teeth in some things to protect some things. And so what's that balance? Because we want this to be best practice. I mean, best practice is that the person that mentors it does not. You can keep that separate. That's great. If you can't, but I'm just tearing our board. Say that that's up to the LEA. It's not for us to decide. That's up to the LEA. Where that would then be a discussion had with leadership at your LEA saying, not a good idea, and here's why. I don't know. I'm going to take it to Travis and see if he can figure out any language. Okay. Rule languages. But yes, that would be great. I mean, I can see that. And we want to put teeth in where we can to protect best practice, for sure. But we also want to honor the fact that there are some people that don't have a choice. Because we have teachers that are principals too. So, I mean, principals that are teachers too. They're the principal, they're a teacher, and they're a mentor for the newbies. And so it happens a lot with our rurals. I know, specific situations, and that's a lot of what happens in our charters too.
In circumstances with
Probably everybody already knows this, but I just learned where the word principal came from. In olden days, when there were rural schools, the principal was the principal teacher. They were the best teacher. They were the number one teacher. I didn't know that. I thought that was fantastic. So now, whenever I say the word principal, I think to myself, is she?
She strokes her beard. Are you getting ready for Christmas and Santa?
My long white beard. I was.
So I can understand that, and I can see the need to protect that. You get it.
Okay.
This is why I'm glad you guys are looking at it. And I'm really glad you read that way because I didn't read it that closely. We should say provide a model training. Which, while we're waiting, the tactical sprint, for those of you that haven't heard of it, is 5 days that I mentioned earlier. And it is 5 very strong structured days on developing a mentor training model. I don't know what it's going to look like. I have no preconceived notions. The whole thing is to develop it from the ground up and for it to be based on design thinking, and it is all about what gets regurgitated during the first couple of days and moves forward. There are no boundaries other than governmental. But we'll be able to develop that and make it into whatever it is that we want to make it in. And I've seen some of these learning sprints happen, and they actually came from the business world. I'll give you an example of an Apple store or an Apple group wanted to help a sunglasses store or a glasses store. They were selling optical. And you know how when you go get glasses, you try on one and then you try on another and you can't remember what that one looked like. And so you try, nothing frustrates me more. Those of you that have never had to experience that, good on you. I'm so jealous. But they wanted, bless you, some way for people to look at multiple views of themselves with different glasses on. And so this took day one of what's the problem, what's going on out there, what is it that we want to solve, where do we want to go from here, what are, kind of our options. And the next day is looking at kind of honing those down a little bit, finding big chunks. And the next day is the storyboard mapping, where they went through and laid it out, literally a storyboard. They were really great artists, so no expectation there. And they storyboarded from beginning what it would look like all the way to production. And their end goal that they wanted was to come up with a program that people could try on their sunglasses, and they could, and it would just snap a quick picture from the laptop, put it on a pair, snap, 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 and then it would lay out a matrix or an array of the different pictures with those glasses on, so people could then make their choice. Anyway, then the next part is testing it. So they took it into an actual store and had people try it, and they got feedback from the customers. And what do you think? Did you like it? And some people said, I will never have a camera take a picture of me because I don't ever want anybody to ever see that. And you can't tell me you're going to delete it, So there was that issue. Some people said, I don't know how I've ever done it before. And some people say, well, I'm thinking about getting my hair cut. Could you change my hair, the way I'm going to have it, And so they determined, what they could and what they couldn't do and all of that. And then after they made those, they got that feedback from the stakeholders. They came to the business with a final product and said, here you go. And business took it and went with it. Sales went up. Their ultimate goal. Because people can choose. Sometimes you like the more expensive ones, right? No, it's not going to go. Oh,
Because we have people on video, it won't.
Oh, okay. With better online feeds. Okay. Were there other comments on this?
I just have a question. If maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the micro-credentialing and badges. I know you mentioned doing something with Davis District, but kind of what you're looking at and how that's working out.
Okay. Davis District, we're in a partnership with them to create a micro-credential kind of ecosystem, somewhere that would house all the different micro-credentials. Do I need to explain micro-credentials quickly? Yes, thank you for being honest. Micro-credentials are an electronic process that you go through to show that you have competency in a specific area. You have to submit evidence or assessments, and they could be videos, it could be reflections, it could be journals, it could be student work, it could be all types of things that you've learned all of these competencies to go with this skill. At the end, after all of your evidence has been reviewed by an outside party, then you receive a micro-credential, and it's usually represented by a physical electronic badge. So I did the micro-credential in how to convince other people that Harleys are cool. So I have this, electronic badge that has a picture of a Harley on it, and, it says, "Coolest chick ever" on it. And I can put it on my email signature for everything, or on my resume, electronic resume. So anybody around can see, all right, she has the competency on this skill. People can determine that and define that skill any way they want. So if we are giving state credit for it, we have to determine that the end goal is rigorous enough, that the evidence being looked at is rigorous enough, that there's some level of inter-rater reliability on people that are assessing multiple people doing this. I mean, can you imagine if everybody in here was taking a mentor micro-credential and you were all submitting conferences that you'd had with your teachers, visits you'd gone with them, notes from your conversations, logs that you kept, and all of you are submitting this, and all of it has to be reviewed by a person. This cannot be done electronically. A person needs to look at this and has a strict rubric, and kicks it back and says, all right, you're good on all of this, but do that. And you're just looking at a huge. So we're starting with, what does a micro-credential have to have in it? But how do we set the rigor that we want? How do we determine that, facilitate an inter-rater reliability, so we know that someone from Granite and someone from JUAB and someone from American Leadership is going to look at it and score it the same? So there's a whole lot of things going on. So we have a 3-year plan rolling out. They're doing a beta test right now. You will see the option in Midas to click badges or something. I don't know what they call it. I'll change that. But you can't get in it. You have to have special permission, special codes and everything to get in there, because it's a beta test through Davis and there's no credit being given. We're hearing that credit's being given. I've been to a couple meetings where I've heard them say that. No, credit is not being given at this particular point in time. But anyway, it's to get that all laid out and figured out. And then where do we house them? All of this documentation and everything. And how do we stay on top of assessing everything? And, so does this then become LEA gives credit or recognition, and you get a $200 bonus if you finish it? Or, and that's the other thing, is what is the incentive to get a micro-credential? Some districts and charters might not do anything about it. They might say, way to go, because they can't, or, just not in their philosophy. There's just so many different ways it can go. We're just at the beginning of it. That help?
Yeah, so if our district is started a new teacher induction micro-credentialing pilot program, is there a way to get involved in those conversations?
Not yet.
Okay. And then the second question would be, so you mentioned it's a 3-year plan. Is it going to take the 3 years to decide if credit will be given, or are there options before that?
I highly doubt that. I'm hoping we know at least within the first year and a half if this is going to be a doable thing, and that the rest of it's just been working out the details.
That's kind of at the point we're at, where we're curious about how we can help our teachers get USBE credit, or we need to be in that process to support that.
But USB credit doesn't, it's fantastic, but it doesn't help anybody make a lane change or add to their.
Some districts do.
Districts
Districts aren't supposed to be doing that.
Oh.
But I'm not going there.
I'm sorry, there were some questions and comments while I was gone.
Okay.
Jeannie Cameron, I think allowing mentors to evaluate reduces or eliminates trust in the mentor.
You guys hear that?
No. I think allowing mentors to evaluate reduces or eliminates trust in the mentor.
He has thumbs up all the way around the room on this.
Thumbs up, girl. Has there been any discussion by the board on the funding for lines 15 through 16? Trained mentors are required, but training is not funded. That is from Allison Riddle.
I pulled it over to Allison. She's a very practical person. Very smart, by the way, too. She's another teacher of the year, by the way. She's in Davis District. So, good on you, Allison Riddle. All right, as far as funding goes, yes, it has been discussed. Yes, I have asked over and over and over again to get it on the board priority. As of yet, that has been a no-go. They have other priorities. However, the board has started to show a little bit more passion about this whole idea and the necessity to keep our teachers. And so I have not given up hope on asking for it. And that's one of the reasons why we are creating the model training process so that it doesn't cost anybody anything other than time, which that's time too. But that's the first purpose, to take that on without funding, is to give you training available if that's what you want. Okay. So we're ready on this? All right. So we've had a lot of discussion about this already. We just did it backwards, so it's all good. But I'd like you to hear this.
That microphone on?
It's not the mic, it's your laptop.
It's your laptop.
Is the sound still plugged in for the laptop? Because that, maybe that was.
Yeah, the sound's coming out of the laptop.
Oh.
I have to figure out where the.
The rule before you right now is R277-308. It is intended to replace the current I requirement rule. The current rule is R277-522. That is the engineer's enhancement. Those are the requirements an individual must create or must meet in order to upgrade to a level 2. Now, since the new system doesn't have that type of a level 1 to level 2 license, then this rule really becomes about the mentoring aspects and requirements for both the LEAs and the superintendent and directing them. So as we've seen before, and we've talked about before, that ultimately as we go through this process, we're going to move things around, we're going to refine things. You'll notice that some of this language is directly from the 301 that was passed last month, because we're saying, okay, that we put it in there because that's where we thought, but now that we're starting to see the bigger picture, we felt like, okay, that needs to be in the mentoring rule. When staff looked at this with stakeholders, we met with HR directors, universities, we met with a number of different groups. It really was a little bit about sending a message. And I know sometimes the board likes to do that, sometimes they don't. But ultimately, there was concern that if there was a board rule about mentoring, and then there wasn't, that sent a message to LEAs that mentoring wasn't important, which we don't believe is the case. We believe mentoring is essential. And so we've designed this rule with a couple of aspects. The things that are still from 301, I can talk about those, but the new things that are in here are talking about that the superintendent is being directed to create a model induction program. So similar to the language where he said we're going to create a model preparation program that districts can adopt if they choose. We'll have a model induction program that districts can adopt if they choose. So the superintendent has that responsibility.
I'm so sorry.
So some of this language is directly from, if you're, I'm gonna refer to draft 3 if that's okay for everyone.
Yeah, that'd be good. Like that.
So on lines 36 through 40, the superintendents were concerned about possible liability based on this language. One of the concern staff has is this is the exact language from 301. This isn't a new thing, but we have an idea on that, so we'll get to that in just a moment. The other aspect is on line 25 and 26, where it talks about a professional learning plan differentiated for each educator. There is concern again about this liability that if a district doesn't do that or they let someone go and they claim they didn't do that it enacts some liability to that district. Now, obviously, I've never been a superintendent. I've never been sued on unemployment, so I can't speak to that. But ultimately, the staff believes that differentiated should be there, that it's best practice. We don't see the liability, but we're kind of from a different view, so that really has to be decided by the board. On the other section, 36 through 40, rather than removing the entire section, the key here is where it says who shall, where possible, and the word shall does create some liability there. So staff would recommend making an amendment such that it says a trained mentor educator with a professional educator license who, where resources allow, shall do these things. And so the idea is districts and districts are not arguing about whether or not this is best policy. They're not at all. It's simply about the exact language that's in there. Staff feels it's important to have those things, this idea that release time for working as a mentor is a really neglected issue in districts, because when we look at the research, mentoring without release time really isn't mentoring. It's not effective. So we want to have the language in there for the board to emphasize the importance of that for the districts, but we are leery of creating some type of liability for the districts, and so that's where we're recommending some changes to the words. But obviously, you as a board can strike it as you see fit, or however you want to proceed.
Remember Warner, did you have it?
Okay. So we'll start, if we're looking at draft 3, we have spent 2 years now working on licensing and trying to separate licensing from employment. So that's really the way that at least I would like to move, since we've done it for 2 years. The documented professional learning plan, I really just believe we need to leave it up to every LEA, every superintendent, as to what that documented professional learning plan is. I totally understand what you're saying about differentiated. I assume that they'll do that, but again, that's an employment issue, not a licensing issue. And then with regards to the lines 36 through 40, those are employment. That's just the bottom line, is we want them to do certain things. We want them to be assigned. That is an employment issue. And when Brittany first brought this up about separating licensing from employment, it took me a while to come around, but I've tried to really focus that employment is the LEA responsibility. We have the licensing. And then on lines 42 and 43, again, that is an employment issue. So that's the way I would like to move, is just completely separating it, keeping it very basic and minimum, so that LEAs can basically have that employment. They do whatever they want employment-wise, because they answer to their own local boards, and their own local boards will be able to direct them as to what they want and put in the rules. And the boards the local boards may say, you know what, we want to have release time, but that's an employment issue between the employee, the employer, and their board. So I would like to move forward on that draft.
Okay, board member Brittany Cummins.
So Travis, you mentioned that lines 36 and through 40 are somewhere else in board rule.
So they are currently in the version of R277301 that was passed by the board last month.
So exactly the same?
That exact wording, yes.
So if we strike it out here, then we would have to,
We would already be planning to revise because we wouldn't have duplication there, yes, absolutely.
okay. So,
I was just going to say,
that's
that's not
great.
the process was to amend 301.
okay. So can I ask a follow-up question? So, as you gave a proposed option there. I guess one of my concerns on this particular line is the resources. So what if the best teacher you find, and because it's resources and personalities, and as you talk about that principal, mentor, teacher, it's not just about, you're a biology teacher, you should match up, right? What if you say that's not going to be a good match in my school, and I really think, this English teacher would be a better mentor for this new biology teacher than that. And I think it just puts restraints that aren't necessary for the decision-making process of that school leader trying to do the best that he can to bring on and retain new teachers. And then I was just curious about may not serve as an evaluator of the educator. And I know that that's trying to find balance. So I'm just curious about the reason why that would be removed and what would be the pros and cons. And, is there ever a case where a principal could and would be the best mentor or coach for a new teacher?
Just one thing to point out, the primary reason we're removing it there is if you look at line 44 and 45, we kind of put the provision there twice. No, that's right. So it's that provision is still in there. They can't be the mentor and the evaluator. Can I respond?
Yeah.
So to answer the question, it's a very good question. And what we know from the research about mentoring is that if a mentor is formally evaluating a teacher, it completely undermines their role as a mentor. It essentially negates it. That you cannot simultaneously serve as a true mentor of an individual and that person's evaluator. So that's why the language was there. But, as Terrell mentioned, maybe that's an employment issue. So you may want to remove it. That's up to you.
Okay. Sorry, I know this is probably too specific of a question, but in that data, does it undermine it from the evaluator's point of view or from the evaluee's point of view?
It's from the research that I've read. Now, and I haven't read everything. just putting that out there. From what I've read, what it does is it undermines the relationship between mentor and mentee. That the mentor and the mentee have to have an honest and open relationship that an individual can't have with their boss, as much as we would like to think so. And we try to have those kind of relationships. Ultimately, if I can fire you, there's things that you may have cause to hide from me, or it undermines that relationship. That's what I've said.
Okay, seeing no other questions from board members, we'll move to public comment. First, we have Rita Hagren. Okay.
So that gives you kind of an idea of what we've got going. Board member, well, she's actually one of the vice chairs, Brittany Cummins, that you heard talk like you didn't see her, but she was asking the questions for the end. She is a board president of a charter. And so she has really worked to get to know both sides of these issues. And so she's really good at asking those questions that not necessarily charter specific, but to point out that there are multiple possibilities that can happen here. So I'm going to leave you to chew on that and go to lunch. All right, so we have our Tooele people that are willing to share what they're doing for looking at the impact of their program. And so we'll hear from them, and then we'll go to Jana. We'll tell you about some of the things they're doing in Washington District. And in the meantime, if anybody else has anything that they've been doing that they'd love to share that is just really cool and going really well, or maybe something that you tried and it didn't go well, so don't do it, kind of thing. All right, Tooele peeps. Oh, I need to put your thing on.
That's okay.
Oh. Okay, then I'll let you do it. I'll stand back.
you borrow your clicker? You take that as a yes.
That's a yes.
It's
not a
I'm
no,
just gonna
it's a
attach. And this is Debbie Bird, and this is Jason Sari, and we are lucky enough to, in our district, to be the district mentors. Like, that is our job. EYE is our job, and we know that that's not the norm. So I apologize for those of you who are wearing many, many hats. We do other things too, but that is our main hat. And we're excited to kind of share with you today what we've kind of done as a result of our last year meeting at this time that Jeannie spoke to us about what type of impact is your program having on your teachers. And I don't know if you remember that article that she gave us but from the New Teacher Center about how to determine what impact your programs have. So we really took that to heart and we decided to get some baseline data to find out what kind of what our program is doing, and we decided to focus on program quality, like what is our program really reaching our teachers, and not only our teachers but our students, because the whole purpose is to impact student learning, and we really wanted to know if our program, from our teachers' perspective, is our program have the quality to reach the students and impact student learning. So we sent out a survey last spring, and we're just going to go over a few of the questions that we asked. So the first question we asked was, the support I receive as a new teacher has been important in my decision to continue teaching in Tulare County School District. So we have strongly agree being orange and red. So we were happy about that. We have these strongly disagrees, and we've kind of talked about to some of those teachers about what we can do better. But the biggest thing about this question is staying with us, because we lose a lot of teachers around the mountain for commuting issues and just a mere $10,000 more in pay. We did get a good boost the last couple of years, so we're excited about that. But we wanted to know if our program has anything to do with the reason why they're staying. And this was happy to see for our program. Yeah.
How many people answered the survey?
We have over 200 teachers that we deal with, and I think there was about 100 that actually responded. Great. Okay, the next question we asked was, the support I receive as a new teacher has a positive impact on student learning. Again, that was one of our things. Well, does it? Does what we do really impact what's going on at the student level? And we've got some positive responses with that as well. And the third question was, the support I receive is helping me to improve my instructional practice. That is one thing we really wanted to know. I mean, yes, we did get a lot of orange and red, but we really dove deeper and found out that they really want help with differentiating instruction, which is great that a new teacher is actually seeing that in their own practice to know, you know what, I do need help with that. Our next question was, the support I receive from my district mentor is sufficient and meets my needs as a new educator. Pretty self-explanatory. This next one, we thought this was funny. The frequency with which I met face-to-face with my district mentor. And we had too much, which is in red. Too much, we'll take it, right? Just right was in orange, and not enough was in green. So we're getting out there and we're meeting with our teachers. And just to give you kind of an awareness of what we're doing, we're in areas. I'm over all the Stansbury schools. I don't know if you're familiar with Tulare County, but I'm over all the Stansbury schools. Jason's over all the Grantsville schools, and Debbie's over all the 12 schools. And then we also, all three of us, go to Wendover and Dugway and mentor teachers out there. Then we really wanted to know, and we know this data, but we wanted to know if they knew, because how many of your teachers don't even know what license they're trying to pursue. So we have, which license do you currently hold, if any? We still have, most of ours are traditionally licensed teachers. They actually do hold the level 1. We have our orange and our ARL in orange, and we have our APT in green, which is increasing every year. Our ATP, we don't have as much anymore because that's the alternative teacher prep that Utah State did with their special ed teachers. They're kind of going away from that now. Out of state is in blue, and then purple is our teachers who haven't decided yet. Do I want to do ARL? Do I want to do ATP? Do I want to go through the Weaver program? We have a partnership with Weaver State to get a level 1 license.
They should wait till 2020, then they'll have another choice.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
And then we had some free response questions to let us know how we could better support them in the future. And just a couple of those, that I want to point out. Obviously, we put some nice ones on there too, but we did guidance instruction regarding the various licensing steps between district and state for the different types of licenses. We got a lot of this because I don't know about you guys, but how much HR work do you guys do as mentors? We do a lot of HR work, and it's nice that they're keeping us in the loop of how licensing is going. Differentiating instruction, knowing how to access curriculum maps and pacing guides in the first year. More help at the building level. A lot of our survey told us that they needed more help at the building level. We do have mentors at each of our buildings. And we're finding out now, and that's the next part of our impact of what we're doing next, is kind of fine-tuning what's actually happening at the building level and what our responsibilities of the mentors are at the building, and what their meetings should be like when they meet with their all right, that was our survey. That's kind of the boring stuff.
Okay, so we took our impact data and we took information that we had received here at one of these meetings, and we need to give credit to Jenna from Washington because she shared some things with us, and so then we took hers and tweaked it to meet our needs. And we came up with what we call the Utah Educator Effective Teaching Standards Focus, okay? So we wanted to really look at, we wanted our teachers to really focus in. And we were really finding that our teachers were kind of struggling with the portfolio and finding it as a hoop to jump through. And so we wanted to help them and help them realize what they needed to do to build their portfolio. So we looked at, the portfolio purpose was to know the standards, right? To show evidence that they're using them in their classroom and that they're reflecting on their practice and improving as much as they possibly can. So we decided we were going to take this and we were going to help them focus on those standards. So the paper that Camilla's sending out, we took this little guide of looking at, we looked at research of teachers, what they kind of can focus on, and read a lot of things in this little circular paper. So as teachers develop their expertise, new teachers' vision moves from more of a focus on themselves. When they come out, they're just really like, oh, am I doing okay? Does my room look okay? Did you like what I did? It's all about them. And then the second year, they kind of move more into the vision of the class as a whole. And then by the third year, they're starting to really think about individual students. Now, of course, we're going to get those that come out of their programs and are an all-star and can do all three at once. But the majority of them kind of have a thing. So we looked at the standards. So I want you at your table groups, and Lori can just kind of join this group. We're just going to look at those standards, and we want to see if you kind of come with us. Look at the standards and put down which one of these three ovals would you put those standards into. So there's 10 standards, and we've got 3 circles, which we have first year, second year, third year. Which do you think that they naturally fall into? Again, this was just us coming up with a right or wrong answer, just how we came up with it. Yeah, there's no right or wrong.
I'm still at circle 1. I want everything.
You're still at level 1.
Just about
you.
Just want to know I got the right answer.
There's no right or wrong, but we'll tell you when you're wrong.
No right or wrong, but we're going to tell you what we did after you look at this.
Which standard do you think focus on?
So which standard number focuses on themselves, on the class as a whole, and on individual students? If you are really looking at
So you pick standard 1. It says learning environment, right? So does that learning environment, does that have to do with the teacher, the vision of the whole class, or individual students? You just kind of decide to just stick a 1 in each circle, and just so you know, the book we got this diagram from is called what?
Mentoring novice teachers.
Mentoring novice teachers. Oh yeah, keep it at the bottom. Huh?
So like for instance, I'm just going to give you, we took standard 1 and we thought it was more of year 3. Individuals working more at individual students.
I moved
Good job. Oh, you did it.
That's your only hint. No more.
Don't overanalyze it. We don't want it.
We want you to just take a minute more and stick them in there. They may or may not give you feedback.
It's perfectly as a quiz. 10
We
out of
didn't
10.
provide you with a rubric.
Oh, and second year? Yeah, I'm in between. Starting here. That's all I thought.
Okay, we're gonna, because we just wanted you kind of look at it. We don't want to take a lot of time with that. So we'll kind of move on, but we'll let you kind of see. We wanted you to kind of have our thinking of what we did, okay? So again, vision of self, how am I doing? Am I a good teacher kind of thing? Then the class, how did my students do? Do they get it? What can I do to make my lesson better? And then by the third year, they're starting to say like, did Matt understand that? Is Shauna ready for?
Do you guys see it? Do you guys see that this is kind of natural, like first year, second year, third year? They just kind of get it. How many of your second year teachers go, I just have a better class this year?
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the fact that they're opening up their mind and seeing that they're a better teacher. Oh no, my kids are just better this year.
Right? Okay, so, so we decided to take our standard and we decided for our first year teachers, which kind of seems weird, we're going to focus on standards 8, 9, and 10. Okay, standard 8, reflection and growth. We want them to start reflecting on things so that they can decide what worked, what didn't, and ask those probing kind of questions. What can I do to make it better? Standard 9, leadership and collaboration. We want them to collaborate and be an active member of their PLC team and realize that they have good ideas too. And then standard 10, professional ethical behavior. And a lot of that's with licensing. We want them to know what they're doing and working towards finishing those guidelines. So our standard 8, 9, and 10, where we work with them after their first year teachers.
So this is stuff they have control over, right? The self, like it's all about them and they can do it, which is really fits into that first little circle, right? Under their control.
Okay. Then our second year teachers are starting to focus more on their class as a whole. Not saying we're not asking our first year teachers to work on content knowledge because they have to be doing that, but we'll tell you about our goals that we're working with them later. So we have our second year teachers work on standard 4, content knowledge, standard 5, assessment, and standard 6, instructional planning. And I'll explain a little bit more when we say have them actually work on it, how we do that in just a minute. Okay. And then our third year teachers, we focus on standard 1, learner development, standard 2, learning differences, standard 3, learning environments, and standard 7, instructional strategies. We try to base our trainings on these standards when we're doing them. And I told you we would tell you how we meet our goals. This is the part that we took from Washington, and then we tweaked it to meet our needs. Okay. So our first year, this is just a first year one. We have them set a goal for themselves for the year. We take standard 8 and we have them set a goal under standard 8. They want to work on a goal under standard 9 and a goal under standard 10. And then they talked to us about their plan and what kind of evidence they're going to have for that because we were building their portfolio right along with them. And then we talk about their teacher needs and questions. We meet with each of our teachers 3 times a year
More than that.
Well, 3 times a year to specifically focus on this. Then in between those visits, we're making observation visits where we're sending them data back on what we've seen during it. So, but 3 specific meetings where we meet with them to work on their focus goals. Okay, and then we set the goal. Then mid-year, we talk about how's it going, what kind of a summary of what's happening so far. We make revisions if we need to, or next steps on each of the goals. And then at the end of the year, we talk about how their goals have had a positive impact on student learning. And then we talk about their evidence, their significant decisions or outcomes, kind of what's going to come next, and plans for next year. So, and then we're also, we give them start thinking about next year. These are the goals they're going to work on the following year. Okay. And then, I said that already, but each teacher, we meet with them to set goals, reflect, and provide evidence. And then all evidence is uploaded to a Google Drive folder between myself and that teacher that I'm meeting with. That's how they build their.
So you're setting this up with them, not the school appointed mentor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this does equal their portfolio. So it still accomplishes working on all 10 standards. You have to show evidence of meeting those 10 standards, working towards those.
But we never use that word, first of all. We never use the word portfolio, but we talk about this as a building of their evidence that they will continue to add to or to help with their evaluations. When an evaluator comes in to evaluate them, their administrator, and they meet with them and they say, hey, I didn't see anything in standard 10. What are you working on? Now they have this Google folder full of evidence that they can use to pull out to help support them.
And I think it's been the teachers who didn't have it year one but have had it year two. They're like, we like this so much better. And I feel like my visits with my new teachers are more focused because I have focus when I go in there with them and talk to them about those things.
And I don't know, do your principals do 90-day plans and things like that where they have a school goal, like the principal has a principal goal for the year or for the semester? That helps so much. If you find out what the principal's goal is, then you can use that when you're meeting with your teachers. Like, I see that your principal really wants you guys to work on content knowledge this year. How is what we're going to do going to help support that principal goal? And then they're not meeting your goals and they're not meeting their goals. They're all kind of working together.
That's exactly what's been missing in our entire district, is we have a set of goals that say things like, take more classes on my content so I'll be a better content area teacher. Well, that's a big, giant, nebulous cloud of whatever. So what we're trying to do is to get people to say things like, I'm going to have 50% proficiency on the whatever Rise, Aspire, Happiness test, whatever it is. Because that's what's been missing, is the specific goal or the principal directed goal. All of our goals were all feel-good goals or personal blah, blah, blah goals, not student achievement goals. So we're trying as hard as we can to make this shift.
So much as a mentor. For example, I have one school right now that I know that the principal goal is to have guaranteed viable curriculum. So when I go and meet with the teacher, I can use that to support the data that I've taken. How is this data that I've taken in your class can help support the principal's goal as well as the goals you've set for yourself? It makes it just more natural and it's not forced.
And it's about student learning, not me.
Do you share this with the school mentor that's there in the building? Or is it just between you and the mentee?
Decide
if they share it.
They own it.
And we encourage them to share it because it gives that building mentor something to focus on.
Something to support them with. Or they could say, this is how I'm achieving the principal's goal, or, yeah.
All right, so just to kind of go over our overall program and how that kind of all ties together. This is what we do. So our first year teachers, we have 4 trainings with them throughout the year. One of them's a new teacher induction for 2 days. What's that?
We do 6 total, actually.
Oh, 6 total, sorry. We do 6?
Well, if you
We do 4 trainings for new teachers
during the year.
for first year teachers during the year. And we also have 2-day new teacher induction. All right, each of those trainings, so those 4 trainings, 2 of them are done after school. 2 of them are done during school hours.
Which is also something we came from our impact survey, that teachers didn't want to leave their classroom. New teachers don't want to leave their classrooms for PD. It's too hard and scary to leave my class with a sub. So we collected all this data and took it back to our business administrator and said, we can do this much for the cost of a sub after school. It's a wash for the amount of money. Can we do it that way? And they supported us to at least do half of our trainings that way so that they're not having to leave their classroom.
Then second and third year teachers, we do 2 trainings for them during the year. One is after school and one is during school hours. We use Canvas for teachers to be able to do additional assignments. Although this year, they're not doing additional assignments on Canvas because we're doing a different program. We'll explain that to you in a minute. But they do, after every single training and stuff like that, give us feedback on surveys for the trainings that we do. We use Canvas to have them give us that feedback. In each of our buildings, depending on the size of the school and the number of new teachers, really that's what it is, we have 1 to 3 building mentors. Twilla High School, for example, has 2 or is it 3? 2?
Which one?
Tooele High School has 2, whereas Grantsville Elementary School has 1. It's just based on the number of teachers that we have that need their support. And so we connect with each of those.
There's a question.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to know what the ratio was, how many, like,
For us at the district level or at the school level?
at the school level.
School level, it's about 3 to 1, 4 to 1.
So,
It's not at the high school, then it's more like 10 to 1.
And are you paying a stipend then to the
Yes.
mentors?
Yeah.
What is
And that
that
comes
based
from
on
Title
the number?
II funds.
Based on the number of mentors, the
The
numbers,
divisionals in the building?
So we do,
and
they get,
based on per year.
they get $200 for every brand new teacher that's just come to the school first ever come. $100 for a second year teacher, $50 for a third year teacher, or someone who's just come to our district brand new that's experienced.
Or a DLI teacher who is not in our program. All right, so the one thing that we do to keep in contact with the building mentors is every month they have to have a meeting with their teachers, and they fill out a log on Canvas where they tell us about whether those teachers are green, red, or yellow. Green meaning everything's good. They got to tell us specifically why, what's going good with this teacher. Tell us at least one thing. Yellow means there might be something personal going on. They might be struggling a little bit in the classroom. Red means it's an emergency. Get there right away, and they tell us in that log why. Or we'd rather them contact us as quick as possible if there's an emergency. If the teacher's not making it, they just had a spouse die, a kid die, or something like that. So we're able to kind of keep up with teachers this way as well through our building mentors. All right, so this year, something new, this was in response to our results as well. Teachers, we talked about different training, professional development for teachers. This year we were able to get a grant which allows teachers to be able to do some professional development on their own time, as opposed to specific times that we set and stuff like that. It's flexible, they can do it when they have time to do it. We got a grant through the Utah STEM Action Center for $150,000 over 3 years. So $50,000 a year that we can use for training teachers.
Does it have to be math and science?
You would think it does, right? Because it says STEM grant. No, but we have enough teachers that a lot of teachers do teach it anyways in elementary and stuff. But we've been able to get by.
Because the way we wrote the grant is because the teachers that we're using are going to be using STEM in their classrooms in some sense, then they need the professional development. Because we only use in the program we only use the classroom management piece. So we're saying that in order to do well at STEM, they have to have a good, strong classroom management base. So that's how we're.
Got it. What is the PD?
We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Excellent. So professional for our first year teachers, all of our first year teachers do, you've heard the talk, micro-credentials, do micro-credentials through a program called Edivate. So all 50 of those teachers will do one on classroom management, routines, and procedures. So it lines up really with the big need that we see with our first year teachers.
How long have you been doing that?
This is our first year doing this program.
Well, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the training itself.
So I haven't ever heard, can you just explain that a little bit, everybody? Is that what it is, and is that a program that you guys developed, or is that
Edivate there's a company called Frontline, and as part of Frontline, they run Edivate. Edivate is just a program that's part of that. It's part of our grant, yeah, there are licenses and stuff that we pay for a certain number of licenses, 85 licenses this year. That allows us to bring that training to 85 of our new teachers.
Learning management system. One of them.
So one more question. How does that affect or go into like your evaluation system or your portfolio? Are they connected somehow?
Not yet, because we told our teachers this year, they're like our guinea pigs. Yeah.
and so it's only for the newbies, it's only for your new teachers?
Right now, our first year teachers have to do it, and he's going to talk about the second and thirds right now.
The second and third year teachers, we have 35 additional licenses for those. So we got one for each of our first year teachers. Second and third year teachers, we put out an email saying who would like to do this. They volunteered, and they can do a couple of different credentials. First year teachers, It's just, they have to do it. Classroom management, routines, and procedures. Second and third year teachers, once again, it's optional if they chose to do it. 35 teachers chose to do it. And they have like 7 different micro-credentials they can choose from.
And there's like hundreds of micro-credentials, so we really focused on the 7 that we thought would get the biggest bang for our buck for new teachers.
And also they line up with what we're supposed to need to meet the grant requirements as well.
So do your first year, sorry, we're looking at micro-credentials. Are your first year teachers overwhelmed with all this? How are they, how's the balance?
So I think that they're overwhelmed no matter what you do. Yeah, they're overwhelmed no matter what you do, right? So we've taken away all of our stuff we used to do on Canvas. So it's not like we're adding more into our program. We've taken out the things we would have done on Canvas for our blended learning, and this becomes their online training. So it's not anything more than they were.
So you replaced?
Yes, we didn't add on top of, we're replacing.
It just depends on the teacher. Some of them feel, some overwhelmed with it, and other teachers feel like, oh yeah, this is
There's
awesome.
some who have already gotten everything done.
Yeah.
But I just want to.
Right. In addition, because with the grant and stuff like that, we're able to pay the teachers to do that. So our first year teachers will get a $400 stipend once they complete it, back to my credential. And then our second and third year teachers can choose from 3 different tiers. They get paid $200 just for recording themselves twice through the year and reflecting on those recordings, or doing a micro-credential and recording themselves, or doing 2 micro-credentials and recording themselves twice throughout the year. And so we're able to give them a financial incentive as well to do it. It's required for first-year teachers, or they need to do it. We're able to give them some money, put some money back into their pockets. They have to do that. So that's a nice thing about that. So the benefits of the grant overall, 3 benefits that we see is it's good professional development. Number 1, that they can do on their own time, so it's flexible. Number 2, we can put some money into their pockets. Number 3, we can use other money for our trainings. One of the big things we like to do is provide snacks or something like that, like Jeannie did for us today. We couldn't do that with our Title IIA funds and stuff. It allows us to do some of those things at our meetings for the teachers.
And state and federal funds did not pay for these treats, so don't tattle.
Yeah,
I know, I was just going to say,
right?
They came out of Jeannie's pocket.
That $5,000 she's claiming on her taxes.
But once again, I just want to make sure we connect this back to, this was because teachers are looking for more time and stuff like that. We want to provide them with more flexibility when they could get some personal development according to their needs.
And I think, did we really clarify, they have to do a micro-credential and then they have to video themselves twice?
That's to meet the grant.
To meet the grant requirements.
Reflect on it. They have a nice program where you can reflect on it, get stuff in there, and you can actually put it into the video. Where they're
So only
reflecting.
1 micro-credential, year 1.
So the videos that you have to do for the grant, are those then included in the micro-credentials so that they're getting credit for both?
If the micro-credential requires one. The
Right.
classroom procedures and routines does,
Mhm.
so it does count for both.
They can use it, okay.
All right. All right. Last one. Feedback we've gotten just as teachers have finished that, as they've been working on the back credentials, we've asked them, how is this and stuff. Most teachers have said it's been excellent, valuable training for them. And so the feedback that we're getting on it so far is that it's been really good. Of course, the earlier you do it with classroom management procedures and routines, the better off you are. So
We had one teacher who did the wrong micro-credential. And for a first-year teacher, and she said, I finished this one, and I was like, oh, how do I tell her she did the wrong one? But I just told her, and she said, oh, that's okay. It was great training. And she was super excited to go back.
So just to wrap it up, so most of the things we talked about are in direct relation to our impact survey. And just like any other program, it's not perfect, and we're constantly tweaking. Our big focus this year as our department is to take EYE out of everything, just kind of removing that in our vernacular. And then we're really looking at the impact of our mentors at the building level, and what we're currently doing is what's in the best. Because the results from our survey, what we didn't talk about, that was one of the biggest negatives to our program, is how that's working right now. So that's our next step, is to kind of tweak that or look at that and see how we can improve it. So thank you.
you guys willing to share this so we can post it on the website?
I just downloaded it.
Okay, great.
While I'm logging in, I'll just tell you what we're thinking. Now, my neck of the woods. We felt good about our efforts to help people set goals and help people kind of get involved in the Utah Effective Teaching Standards. But what we feel less good about is that doesn't always translate to improved student outcomes. Or, oh, dude, you know, how are we running such a fantastic program when some of our schools' proficiency is still at 40% and hasn't moved in years or whatever? I forgot my, hang on. Okay. So that is what we're struggling with right now. Hold on, people. We're holding. That's not true. Anyway, we're trying to make that connection between all this work we're doing. We have a learning coach in every school. We have 5 or 6 different content area coaches. We've got different professional learning, blah, blah, blahs, all of this. We're all hustling. We're all knocking ourselves out. But it may not be our water may not be getting to the end of the row, which is bothering us. So anyway, what we do right now is an ION learning program. I teach that. I'll show you quickly what that looks like. So we posted it up a slightly different way than our friends just explained. What I used to do was have 5 sessions that started in September. It was September, October, November, then February, March. I used to take the whole year to get it done. And I said to myself, that is dumb. Because they've already had a couple of evaluations by then. So I compressed everything. And I put everything I do in the first semester. To be fair, to give all the new teachers all the information they need. I typically just invite the I-1 teachers. But anybody's welcome to come. And I also invite all of our learning coaches to come so that they can be aware of what we're talking about and help their people maneuver. So I've broken it up this way. And I go like this, 4 and 6. I have 5 Utah Effective Teaching Centers, 5 separate, because assessment is kind of a big subject. So I've separated that out. And then 7 is also big, so we spend a lot of time just on instructional strategies. And then 8, 9, 10 is our last class. And that's how we do it. We meet after school. It's not required. It's optional. It's for you. It's for you and your learning coach to learn new things about how to be better prepared and how to get new skills as a new teacher. But the basic premise is you wouldn't test your students on information that you didn't explicitly teach them. Why are we evaluating teachers based on standards that we didn't explicitly teach them? That's why I do it. I feel like it's fair. And yes.
What's your participation like since it's optional?
Fantastic question, Jeannie. I have 150 new teachers every year, just about. 75, just about equally split between elementary and secondary. All the elementaries come on the first session, all of them. and maybe a portion, maybe a third of the secondary folks are there. I have like 100 people there on the first session. And I have like 75 people here on the second session. Last week on this one, I only had 20 people there. So participation tapers off. But here's what I turned that into a positive. Everyone's feeling so good in their classroom that they don't need to come. That's what I'm telling myself. But actually, it makes me feel bad then when people don't come. I will probably have 5 people here in December because it's a terrible time. This was the Monday before before Thanksgiving break. That's a terrible time. And this is going to be just as terrible. But logistically, what else are you going to do? Where are you going to put it? So I have some principals who require their people to come, and they somehow work it out with their learning coach that they require that learning coach to go with them. They work out the funding on that in some way. But they don't pay their new teachers any extra because they consider it a part of their job to go to this training. I have some principals who don't even know that we have this because they're not listening to anything we say. But so we're all over the map on that. But I got one school who brings all 18 of their brand new teachers, their elementary school teachers. And so here's why I'm sharing this with you. What I'm going to do this year for the first time ever is after evaluations are done, I'm going to match confidentially, no one else will see it but me. I'm going to match these people who came to these meetings with their evaluations and see if the evaluation by their principals is different, better, worse, whatever, and measure those against the people who never came to any of these things. So, and the other thing I want to do is get the list of teachers first-year teachers who were let go or not asked back or at will, their contract is not renewed. And I want to see if any of those people came to these. And if they did, how did they do? So, because again, it's optional. I can't require them to come. I'd like them to come. I make a pitch for it at my new teacher orientation training. I think it's important, again, for the same reason that how can you be evaluated or tested on something you didn't even know existed? So here it is, explicitly taught. Have great conversations. I know that the people who attend have a great experience, and they always leave there saying, this is the best thing I've heard, blah, blah, blah. So that makes us feel good, but let's see how it turns into actual performance is my next step this year. So I'll let you know. Any questions? All right, awesome.
I do like the idea of evaluations that teachers that go in and they're evaluated, right? And by the end of October, and they're just starting and they're just brand new.
Right.
It's hard to show evidence and all those different things. So I like the idea of trying to get that information to them quickly so they know what they're being evaluated on and looked at and stuff and how to match that.
Here's something I've done to assist in that is at the end of every meeting, I have them pull up their email and they send an email to their principal and they say, hi, Principal Jones. I attended Eye on Learning today where I learned about you taught 1, 2, and 3. And when you come and visit my class, see that I understand that every student has a different level of development. We kind of write an email together. And that invites it. It makes it so the principal isn't just dropping in, looking at everything. They're looking at specific things that we've gone through, and they pick kind of what they feel most comfortable writing about in their email. They might feel super good about their planning, and so they might say, when you come to visit, be certain to ask me for a copy of my lesson plan because I spent a lot of time on instructional planning. I'm feeling really good. So they get to kind of choose or direct some of the observation work. Write an email at the end of all these. Awesome.
that with us. So as we looked at that impact plan last spring, started thinking about it, it doesn't have to be big. It does not have to be some great production, which that I felt like that article and those tools that we used last spring kind of made it feel like it needed to be. But if you think about it, we've got Twila who put a survey out there, simple, very pointed questions, looking for very specific information, and now their whole year is based off of what they've been told, the impact that they have had or haven't had, and they have a direction to go one way or the other. Same thing with Jana. She's doing this now, and her next step then is to find out what is the impact of what she's done. I'm looking for any kind of correlation she can find between evaluation outcomes and their so with that, I have a quick comment I wanted to make to you about the micro-credentials. I don't want you to think that we're not interested in them at the state level. I don't want you to think that we're just trying to get out from underneath them. We think they're fantastic, and I'd love to do a ton of them. It's just logistics, and if we can figure that out, then we'll definitely do that. So there is a lot of credibility behind micro-credentials. Don't shy away from them just because we're not doing them at this level. One of our problems is know that we have teachers that are in just different LEAs and they get micro-credentials, let's say from Twila. Well, if they go to Canyons, is Canyons going to recognize that? It doesn't matter. So there are, who's going to, honor what and what do they honor about it and that type of thing. It's just, so it's kind of this big thing out there right now that we're trying to figure out if we plug a hole in it somewhere and try and help bring it together or not or what. So keep your eyes and ears open on that one. Everybody sign the will. If you did not, will you make sure you do that before you leave? Quickly, I need to ask you all about upcoming for our next one on February 20th. All right, so a couple of the things that I have heard or received emails about as far as topics to cover and think about, feedback. How do I give feedback to my mentors? How do I help my mentors get better at mentoring? Not giving feedback to new teachers. Another one is the teaching standards, obviously. What am I doing to support my mentors such that they know and understand the teaching standards and that they know how to support? Another one that I've had comments about is how do I move my mentoring to focus more on instruction instead of classroom management all the time and sharing different resources? How do I support my mentors to get those new teachers moving into having effective instruction? And some people have mentioned content specific. I don't know if that's somewhere that we can go as a group, but for networking. There's another one I was thinking of. I wrote it down. Differentiated mentoring by levels. So first year teacher, whether they're first year to the profession, whether they're first year to your school, second year teacher, third year teacher. Also, what was their entry method? Are they APT? Are they university? Are they ARL? How did they come to you? Do they require different mentoring? What about elementary and secondary? Does that require something different? And how do you help your mentors to deal with that? What if they have both elementary and secondary? Or what if they have?
Well, and what if they're SPED? I mean, we have one right now that we're mentoring that's SPED, and she comes to our meetings, and yet so much of it doesn't apply to her. Like, what does she need specifically versus?
So how do you help your mentors?
Those
Those
outlier group, not outlier, but those specialized groups that need different needs than everybody else.
Actually, that's a good question. Right now, EYE has encompassing school psychologists, speech counselors. Will they all stay?
Just mentoring from, just based on license level and,
Hold an associate license.
um, so, we need to look at this too, well, a few different ways. One, do we want some research on one or two to talk about and then share ideas? Do we want to focus on two things with some background information, sharing ideas, making next step plans? Do we want a half day on what we did, kind of like we did today with information and research and what's going on, and then afternoon is sharing? Do we want to squish this into half day because you've got a lot going on and what you want to do? There's a lot of, those are a lot of questions. Are there any topics you're having a quick gut reaction as we've got to talk about this?
The last one.
That differentiated based on multiple things. Okay. Yes?
I'm feeling like my plans are set for this year. I'm in the middle of them. I'm moving forward through this year. I'm not going to change anything this year. But by the end of the year, when's our next meeting after February? No?
We have one in May.
So in May is the time that I will have already thought about it, but want to solidify my plans for next year if anything is new. So I don't know what that means.
So do you want next meeting?
April 29th.
April 29th?
Yeah. So by April 29th, we'll all have a better idea. I will have a better idea of what I want to do next year based on the change, the shift. I'm not going to do anything different in February, but I'll be making decisions in March, April, and May.
Like in April, does that mean that we meet together and talk about those things so that we can solidify them better, support each other and help them solidify our plans?
Or at least share out some of the decisions we've made based on this shift, the way things are going to shift. That's an idea. Okay.
Back to 4 times a year due to requests for being able to.
Not only that, nobody can drive here in February. The weather's going to be terrible.
No, it's not.
I'll just be virtually. I will attend virtually.
That's why we do it virtually. It's not as fun. Yeah. It's tough as much.
That's what I did.
On the teaching standards, you've seen our website, Granite's website, our department, and also our matrix that we're working on. And is all based around the 4 standards. Matrix is, absolutely incredible because for each of those 4 standards, every single topic is addressed and there's activities and a shop for.
Which 4 standards?
The teaching standards, the effective.
Is it all 10 of them or?
Yeah. Do you want to bring it up?
Did she say, did she say 4 or 4? Analyze the Granite's website because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like their new teacher website is like.
If you wanted to
Let's
bring
get
it up,
to
I
it.
can show you the matrix real quick. And at least for the people here, we don't
Maybe
even.
that's fun to share. Maybe we talk about this teaching standards next in February, and we'll put you on the list to.
And can you bring your resources? Because I want to Granite's trying to find that flip chart and some of those things.
Okay.
And
Well, you know what? Like today, if you just go into the matrix,
I did it after our last meeting.
the flip book is now on there. So you can go in there and get the flip book. You can go in there and get the cards. You can go in there and get the RBI manual that the state puts out. I am just working on. Anyway, I've written several of the. It's just an amazing. So, but like I say, for teaching standards, everything you want to know about is there.
Their interest in looking at the teaching standards?
I'll raise my hand.
Sure.
Okay.
I think that's the thing that we know that's going to stay the same. That's not changing in 2020, right? So we know that that's a constant. So it's worth putting our effort into it because that's a constant right now. Other things may change.
Because I said in November of 2011, I'm in charge and it's not changing, so don't jinx me.
Yeah. So I do feel like that's a constant and it's something we all need exposure to. And so bringing the resources that we have that support that and how we're presenting it to our staff and looking at the different models that we're using could be really beneficial, I think.
On to next time. Want to focus on more and more sharing? Do you want half day or a whole day?
Start at 10.
Start at 10?
I'm kidding. I'll be in St. George, sure, whenever you want.
Thank you. Good.
You're good with what we've got today?
Yeah.
Do I need to send a survey out to everybody? Your brains are tired?
I like the sharing though. I think that it's good to learn.
We need to do more of that. And I don't like the whole first half of it being me and then. And I take your feedback. A couple people had mentioned at the last meeting, if we're going to look at articles, make them have some content, not fluff, because we've talked about dandelions and comparing them. And, yeah, it's an interesting thought, but if it's not worth your time, let's not do it, right? Like having, if the reading that we do at the beginning is academic and more topic specific.
I like both of them, but I do like the breaking it into the 4 groups like we did today, where somebody else is quickly analyzing an article and just gives me the nuts and bolts. Like, to tell me to read 4 articles at 9 in the morning probably wouldn't ever happen in my life. But I like this. It's easy to digest what it said. So I did like the way we did it this morning, but I like the dandelion article too. I thought it was great.
I'll send you dandelion articles through I'll email them to you. All right, so what I'm hearing, February 9 to 2, talking about the Utah Effective Teaching Standards, talking about differentiating, mentoring. Okay, so think about this. This is what you need as a mentor in order to be able to mentor or train other mentors to support new teachers with the Utah Effective Teaching Standards. And it's about you as a mentor or the mentors that you oversee, knowing how to differentiate mentoring. About the new teachers, it's about you. Okay, so I know I've got somebody for Effective Teaching Standards, got Granite. Anybody else is here?
Well, let me just tell you what I was thinking of, and maybe nobody's interested in it, and that's fine. But we went through and we made differentiated leveled standards that mentors should have. So in other words, how to coach. A beginner coach would do these things. A middle level coach would do these things. An experienced coach would do these things. We've got 10 pages of those on different skills, different coaching skills at different levels. So they're differentiated coaching standards. I don't know if anybody is interested in those.
All right, does anybody, I'll send this out, ask for some people to volunteer to share some ideas. So we'll read an article, talk about it again, keep you up to date with what's going on, thinking about things a little differently maybe, update you on the UIE rule, UIE, listen to me, induction and mentoring rule, see if there's anything going on in legislation. That we'll be right in the middle of that. And then we'll share best practices with each other. All of you for participating, I appreciate it. All of you for coming back from lunch. Cassidy and I were trying to figure this out, but we're trying to figure out a way we could find a local restaurant that would, find a local restaurant where you could all go online and order something if you wanted it and pay with your debit card, and then we could send a couple people to go pick it up and bring it back to everybody, so that not everybody has to leave. I don't know. Is that something you'd like us to kind of look at?
Yeah. Or the Granite Building, because that's nice, because they have a cafeteria there.
They do, but it's so hard to
Coordinate that.
Yeah, the rest of the meetings are here.
Good to know. Okay.
So I love having it at Granite for that purpose.
Yes.
Well, for many purposes. It's my stomping ground.
But there's not an app that does that. We should develop that.
There is one.
We should become millionaires.
DoorDash. Yeah, there's a lot of different restaurants. Whenever I would go with Jamie over to the FA, she always would have, she said, pick out what you want, we're gonna go to the restaurant. I know, I love, Esther actually said, train the Chihuahua peeps, they're speaking your language. And she said, yes, I miss everyone.
Amy,
Jamie. Anyway, when we went and trained, when Summit Academy went, this was the topic of my bringing this up. There were like 4 different restaurants, and she said, pick what you want. Did that, and they brought food to us. So I don't,
the restaurants delivered it there?
yeah. And it's like DoorDash, Door something.
Dash.
Not real big technology, but maybe check on that.
Yeah. Cross our fingers that Judge Cafeteria's on there. Things are brownies.
You know somebody had them.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you all very, very much. Take what you want, throw away what you don't. If it's paper to reaching your recycled, let's just put it on that back table if you're not wanting it. And off you go. Be careful.